Is that part of those part of the words?
We're live. Hello, everybody.
The
Got a
dog
good
bite
show
me
for you
song.
tonight. It was like he gets so crazy. He gets so. If someone knows what we're talking about, then mention it in the chat. But I'm cracking Brian up right now.
I haven't Googled it. I
Just
tried the dog bite me song. I'm getting YouTube songs from like the 50s. How come your dog don't bite no more?
uh, should
Don't
we
let the
make
same
that?
dog bite you twice.
Do you think that we can get like we could play clips of? Is it illegal to play clips of songs on the show, or is it like copyright if you do that?
I'm
Like,
sure
what if
there's
each
like some
show had
fair
like an
use.
associated song that we can kind of, related to what we talked about, and it like, I don't know. That's how like part two starts, is we play the song. I don't know. It's an idea. Kind of
I'm
weird that we go
trying
back to the original theme song for part two, right? Shouldn't it be like a different entrance song? Maybe we should commission Pat to make us a new
part
part
two.
two entrance song. That'd be fun.
Do we even need a part two entrance song?
Just like start, just like that, like the like
Yeah.
not even. I think a little stinger or
Okay.
something.
Little singer.
I
What if we ask Pat take the theme song and condense it
hmm.
to 10 seconds?
He once did
All
make
the key
us a
moments.
remix,
He
which,
did.
yeah, we could play. We
I
could
ca-
just use that.
I can't get to this song without using the word.
Okay. Well, we're gonna have to start the podcast. So thanks people for joining. We got a good crew here so far. People have said hello. We got Matt, we got Norm, Trev. This is huge. So let's not disappoint them. All right. Guys who went for we're gonna go to best worst. Okay. Yeah! Yes! Welcome everybody to another episode of the Keeping Karlsson Fantasy Hockey Podcast, the longest running fantasy hockey podcast in the world, hosted by two guys who today are going to talk about every NHL team going from worst to best. And hopefully, right now in the couple, we would both maybe be on the earlier part of that. But by the end of the season, we're still hoping that we're going to be the best. But okay, I'm your host, Elon Dubrovsky. And Brian, we had some good feedback from last week. People liked the concept of going through every team, but with a timer. So hopefully you have your stopwatch ready. We're just gonna do it again, but we're gonna change the order. Maybe like the new thing could be every week we pick a new fun order. And this week's fun order is going to be we're going to start with the team with the fewest points in the NHL standings, go to the most. But yeah, I haven't even introduced who I'm talking to here. I'm Elon, like I said, with me, the fancy hockey robot, the poobah of prognostication, the IPP MVP, the person who's going to give us all the best advice for the various players I've compiled, who's hot, who's not, who's injured, who's back. It's Brian Com. Brian, welcome to the show. How's it going?
Thanks. I love being welcome to my own podcast. It feels great. So I'm doing great too. You can call me the poo bruh of prognostication. How about that?
I like it.
Yeah.
The poo
It's
bros
a,
of prognostication.
yeah. Yeah. Well, if we started the podcast today and
Mm-hmm.
we had to use the word bruh in the title, what do you think it would be?
I think you nailed it.
Poo bruhs of
Bobrovsky or something like
prognostication.
that.
Bobrovsky. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Send your bruh. I'm sure this is already old and
Jonas Brodin.
oh wow, deep cuts.
I don't know.
So we could go on all night with this for sure. And we have a patron cast tomorrow. So if anybody loves this content, we do it for as long as it takes to answer all the patron questions each month. Or if you have questions about guys who were not taught, we're going to be very a lot of breadth tonight. But yeah, if you want more and you want to support the show, you can go ahead. We usually don't put that little show there now, but there it is. Patreon.com/keeping Karlsson.
Yeah, I'm excited. This is good. This is my second of 3 days in a row recording podcasts. Brian, I did a matchup maximizer yesterday. Hopefully, people enjoyed that. Brian and I think are going to knock out a banger tonight, and then yeah, we'll be back tomorrow to talk to the patrons. And then I'm going on vacation for a week. Brian is also going on a work trip, so we got a big plan. Actually, next weekend's show is going to be bonkers. It's going to be so good. We're going to have Blake from Apples and Ginos hosting a roundtable of Dauber writers to discuss all the news of the week. And we're working on it behind the scenes. I think it's going to be a pretty good, if may I even say great replacement for Brian and I. And of course, you're also going to have all your short shifts I haven't figured out matchup maximizer yet, but not like I'm having trouble. I just haven't, there have been a couple suggestions already in the Discord. So you stay subscribed, you're gonna get your stuff. But Brian, why don't we just focus on knocking out a great show today? Who was all, by the way, those Dauber writers work for that site, dauberhockey.com. Great site. We're happy to be presented by them. But yeah, Brian, how about we get into it? We should start the timer. It's same as last week, right? We got to do 5 teams every 20 minutes. That's the rule, right?
That's it. So I have my 20-minute timer ready, and I'm ready when you are. You have your standings ready? You have them locked and loaded?
I'm ready, man.
It's always a little enlightening to see the standings. Sometimes you lose track of where. Like, I'll be
That's what
honest.
this show will be for. We'll help people.
Yeah. I
Now
mean,
they'll know.
I'm a little surprised at how soon we get to the Leafs, but that just shows how not in the Toronto media ecosystem I am. Because if I were, I assume I'd be surprised at how long it takes to get to the Leafs.
I see. Okay. So, did you start it?
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. Okay, let's go, bro. Brah. We're gonna start with the San Jose Sharks. They are the worst team in the league. They have 26 points. By the way, I'm just going by points. I'm not gonna do points percentage or anything crazy. So obviously there might be some teams that just had like fewer games. So don't come at me. But yeah, the Sharks, 26 points. They are not very good, but they may get a little better now because Logan Couture is back in the lineup, and he played his first game versus Anaheim. And the Sharks won that game 5-3. So who knows? The captain is back. Maybe it's a whole new San Jose Sharks team. By the way, Couture, not too bad. Had an assist, no shots, but 3 hits. He doesn't even usually hit that much. So that's good. A block. That's his first game back. He's just easing into things. Played only 15 minutes and 49 seconds. Got to imagine that'll go up. Like I'm looking at previous seasons, he's averaged closer to like 19 minutes a game. So for a warm-up game, I'm not complaining. Clear ad, right? Right? If he's available to people in free agency, like he's not a superstar anymore. I'm not saying, like, I don't know. Well, Chris, get your take. Like, how many last season he paced for 67, the year before 60? Do you think he's in that realm, like 60 to 70 points as a
Until we
pace? Yeah.
Yeah, until we see he isn't, then I think Couture is. He's 34 years old and coming off an injury, so we need to take both of those factors into consideration when we're setting our own expectations about what we can expect from him. But Couture has been in that 60 to 70 point range for like forever, for a really long time, with the odd outlier season, both bad and good. But generally 60, 70 points, sometimes on the high end or low end of that, but safely in that range, 2.5 shots per game. And I guess I'll expect the same, and if you're worried, like, oh man, but the Sharks, like, they suck this year, right? Couture's been on some good Sharks teams, and that's where he's produced. I will remind you that Couture paced for 67 points last year with Alex Barabanov and Matt Nieto. And I don't see like a huge downgrade on that coming at 5-on-5. And then you might say, well, Brian, Couture had Erik Karlsson on the power play. And I'm going to, a little bit of Karlsson blasphemy coming up is that the power play this year in San Jose seems to be as threatening this year at last in terms of the chances they're getting. And they are actually scoring at a higher per 60-minute rate than they were last year with Karlsson back there. So I don't know how or why that's happening. It's either someone's stepping up huge or Karlsson is not who I again, I'm not going to go deep on Karlsson here and his impact on, like, I still think he has a positive impact, and I don't mean to minimize what he's capable of. But the takeaway here is Couture in San Jose on maybe the worst San Jose team he's ever played on. I still think you could reasonably expect, assuming he's healthy and ready to play, 60 points. That's what I'd be hoping for in 2.5 shots per game. And before we go anywhere else, Elon, I just want to also mention a deeper cut on San Jose. Fabian Zetterlund. Remember, he came back from the Devils in the Meyer trade. He had 8 shots last Tuesday, and then the next game on Saturday, he had a golden assist and 3 more shots. He has 20 or more minutes in 3 straight games. He hits. It seems like he might get shots, and he's currently on the top power play, top line, and top penalty kill. So, or maybe not the top penalty kill in terms of minutes, but he's penalty killing alongside Tomas Hertl. So, for all those reasons, if you're in a deep enough league, Fabian Zetterlund might be somebody you might be interested in.
Yeah, I like it. And we should also mention Mikael Granlund is out, right? So As far as that power play goes that you're talking about, they're just sticking with the five forwards. And yeah, I guess like Couture just takes Granlund's spot. And same with the lines were kind of crazy in the last game. Yeah, Zetterlund was with Hurdle at even strength, and like you said on the power play, and shorthanded. Couture played for a bit with Duclair and Barabanov. Looks like things shifted around. I think Duclair got I don't know, doghouse, like bottom of the roster, benched for a bit. But anyways, yeah. So I agree with you. I think it's a clear like you want Hurdle, Couture, and then I'd say Zetterlund third now that Granlund is injured. Which is too bad. Granlund's having a great year. Granlund, by the way, pacing for what is it now? 63. So I don't see why Couture, if he's, like you said, his 100% self, why can't he step into the exact role that Granlund has been playing and be similar, if not better?
Yeah,
There you
yeah.
go.
I like the way you frame that. I'll also throw
Okay.
one other name out there that a
Oh
lot of
my
you
God, Brian,
might have
we're gonna
left for
have
dead. No, I know.
you're eating into time from
Too
the
much San
Chicago
Jose.
Blackhawks.
Well, we'll take it out of their time maybe. But Mackenzie Blackwood, he's starting all the games now, right? So if you're looking for volume, he's getting it. The Sharks regularly give up 30 or more shots against, occasionally 40 or more shots against. So that's nice. And Blackwood has a 910 save percentage over his last seven outings, 2-3-1 record. So, of course, you can't expect the wins to be there. But I'm actually just framing it that way because there's a lot of goalies coming up on the show that we might check into how they've been doing in their last like 4 to 7 games who haven't been doing as well as Mackenzie Blackwood. So in case you've just like written off the guy, he is providing some value. Of course, depends on your format, but 3 of his last 4 starts have been quality. So I think that's something to keep an eye out for.
Yeah, that's good. And let's go to Chicago next, at the second worst team in the league. And yeah, I wanted to talk about their goalie, Mrazek, kind of another Blackwood, right? It's a goalie on a team that's not very good. You wouldn't expect too much from. But Mrazek has taken the majority of the starts recently over Soderblom, and he's doing like really well. He only let in 3 goals and got the win against the Islanders. That was crazy. That was the game that got Lambert fired. Once you lose to Chicago, you're out. I'm sorry. That's just how it goes. And yeah, his previous 4 games before that, he had 2 or 1 goal against. So Mrazek has been really good. So yeah, add him to the list. I guess him and Blackwood. I don't know if you want to do a comparison right now, but all I'm saying is, yeah, we're gonna when we talk about some more goalies later on, we might be like, do you want to drop this person for a Blackwood type, a Mrazek type? Someone who is on a bad team, but at least is going to get you starts and seems to have their game going at least somewhat.
Yes. Yeah. No, for sure. I think that that's worth a look. And Mrazek is quietly having a season where he is performing above expected, which you might not have noticed overall, and that's fair. But he, like, I'd say it's a good Petr Mrazek season, versus what anyone else might have done in that Chicago net. I'm not sure. Like right now, he's on a good run, 923 save percentage in his last 6 starts. He's above 905 of those last 6. Which is, by the way, a much better rate than the rest of the season, where Mrazek is basically above 900, maybe like every other night only. And even while playing well, it's kind of like Blackwood, where 910 would be enough to be over 500. Mrazek with a 923 in 6 starts, he's 3-3-0. He's 500. But again, quietly having a good season, seems to be getting all the starts. I'm not sure. Like Chicago has like done this thing where they've given either goalie like a run and it's ended very suddenly. And then they've moved to the other guy. And I don't know if that's what we're waiting for again or if not. I think it's pretty clear that Mrazek like has outplayed Soderblom through the year. And if Chicago wants to be like competitive or put in their best effort, then Mrazek is in net. And then I guess the question is, do they really want to be competitive and put in their best effort? Because they are chasing San Jose for the best lottery odds.
Yeah, but I mean, come on. Like, it seems like they're trying to win, at least lately. They just beat the Islanders, so I'd
Yeah.
imagine they're trying.
Yeah, and
Uh,
they like
um,
purposely injured Connor Bedard to help their chances. So I think
yeah.
I think they might as well start Mrazek.
By the way, Bedard apparently is like ahead of schedule. Might come back pretty soon. He's been already skating and all of this, so we'll see how that affects things. Next, let's go to the Anaheim Ducks. They're the third worst team in the league right now, 31 points. And things probably aren't going to get much better. They have another big injury. Zegras was already out. Add Alex Killorn to the list now, which is obviously a bummer for them. And of course, Minchukov is out as well. So yeah, it's not looking good. and they just lost to the Sharks, as I just mentioned. So that explains things. They lost to the worst team in the league. But yeah, in the meantime, like, so who do we look at? I guess you've got Troy Terry as the now star of the team, and he's been playing with Leo Carlsson, who is apparently done with his load management. Though unfortunately, Leo Carlsson, like since he's come back from his injury, just 1 assist in 3 games. That last game against San Jose was his best game. He had 2 shots. The previous couple games, he had one and zero. So maybe Leo Carlsson will get going now. Uh, you know, Adam Henrique was playing with those two, by the way, Terry and Carlson. And also Henrique was on the top power play, or was he? I'm seeing he had the most minutes on that was
He
on the power play with
was.
Silverberg, Stroman, Vetrano, and then there was a Terry McTavish, Carlson, Carrick. So maybe it's like a 1A, 1B type power play. Maybe it's not the kind of thing where there is even a top power play on Anaheim right now, though you know, I guess that's kind of not good for anyone, but it's kind of, I guess, kind of good for Adam Henry because it's more than he used to get. So I don't know. As a deep cut, you mentioned like a Fabian Zetterlund, so I'll throw out another deep cut in an Adam Henrique who had a goal and an assist versus San Jose. He also had a goal and assist a couple games back versus Florida. So maybe he's someone to look at. Anaheim doesn't have one of their classic like Ducks schedules next week, just a boring Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday on busy days. But yeah, had to mention him and also just give a quick shout out to Troy Terry, who's doing very well.
Yeah. Yeah. Troy Terry, if you hung on, pat yourself on the back. I think I say that every time, only just, it's like my subtle way of saying, like, "Mm, it's good." I mean, you had to be patient, and I understand if you wanted to cut him. Yeah, Elon, I like Henrique. I think that's all there is to, I mean, bummer for Killorn, who was like, Killorn was rosterable, right? So I think Henrique could be too. And Killorn, Elon, I think he gave you fits because he would do nothing for a game or two, and you'd be like, oh, I'm dropping him. And then he'd go off and then he'd do nothing for 2 games and then go off. And like, so if you're okay with that pattern, then you're okay with that pattern. And you might expect the same of Henrique, who has 7 points, 2 goals, 5 assists in his last 7 games, a couple shots a game over that stretch. And I think worth a try. I would, Elon, I think I'd put him above Fabian Zetterlund by a little.
I think I'd go Zetterlund, but I mean,
Hmm.
it's not the biggest debate that we need to have. But I'm not. I think Adam Henrique's just never been worth holding, and Zetterlund's actually had some good runs this season already.
I was
I
actually,
don't know.
well, I think Henrique has been, I think that's the only reason I'm going Henrique is because there have been stretches where he has been worth holding, especially when I disbelieve in him.
All right, we've got Trev in the
Well,
chat.
you
He'll
know
let
what,
us know in a month.
you know what, I'm changing. No, Zettelin
Oh,
shoots, he hits. Yeah,
boom,
and definitely on power play one. Okay. All right. So
we did
there's our
it.
ranking so far for the show. Zetterlund, then Henrique. See if
Yeah.
it gets any more exciting.
Let's go to your Ottawa Senators. Oh no, Brian. Why are they here? That's not how it was supposed to go. They've only played 42 games. All the other teams we've talked about played 45 or 46. So probably they should be ahead, at least of Columbus. They would be ahead of Columbus. But alas, we're going to talk about the Sens. How much time do we have, by the way, left? We have 2 teams to go in this stretch here.
Yeah, we've got 8 minutes. We're good.
Okay, we could do this. All right, Ottawa just had a nice win today. Comeback win over the Flyers. Egor Zamula scored 2 goals in the first, and then Ottawa was like enough. And Brian, our friend John, John A. Well, I guess both of our friends John are A, but the John A that I'm in a group chat with about the Sens,
The one
he
who's
was
most
all
likely to talk hockey.
yeah, he wrote saying like big character win for the Sens
Oh,
in
yeah.
the group chat. So there you go. And of course, the notable thing for today was that Shane Pinto was back in the lineup. So Ottawa's got Pinto. They've got Josh Norris back. They already have Stutzla. They already had Ridley Gregg. Like they have 4 good centers, but they actually ended up moving Ridley Gregg to the wing in a good spot, right, to play with Stutzla and Drake Batherson. So all of a sudden, we've got like 3 interesting lines here. Like Ottawa's a team that you might, if they have a good schedule one week, they were rolling Stutzla, Gregg, and Batherson, and then Kachuk, Giroux, and Norris, and then Tarasenko, Pinto, and Matthew Joseph. And by the way, Shane Pinto, welcome back to the league after being suspended half a year. 1 assist, 2 shots, similar to what Couture did. Only played 14 minutes and 33 seconds. And again, I'm not going to read into that and be like, I guess really, or Shane Pinto is a 14-minute guy. Like he's probably also getting eased in after no training camp and no whatever. So he's interesting to me. I don't know. If I was crazy, I'd ask you to just rank all the Sens top 9 of how interesting they are for you to stream. But yeah, definitely worth taking a look at Pinto, I think, if your league is deep enough.
Yeah, Pinto and Greg are on the radar, and because Pinto's in the mix, I think that puts Matthew Joseph back on the radar too, with playing in the Pinto, Joseph, Tarasenko playing together. I know Tarasenko gives Shams fits about what to do with him. Adam dropped, like if he was dropped in my division, Well, I'm so poor right wing. Like I would need to try him out. And I know he's running hot and cold. It still like doesn't make sense. Like I feel like Vladimir Tarasenko is still like not actually an Ottawa Senator just because we haven't. It just seems strange. Like I can't. I see him in the jersey and it still doesn't compute.
He
Um,
scored today, for what it's
yeah,
worth.
yeah, yeah. So I think Pinto coming back makes that whole top nine a little more well-rounded, so that yeah, you don't have to worry about Matthew Joseph like being banished to nowhere. I guess he was the only real one who was in danger of that. Well, I guess Tarasenko to some extent too, and Ridley Gregg is in the mix too as someone to look out for with Pinto. Yeah, like maybe you could expect 50, 55 points.
As a pace.
Nice little debut. Yes, yes, nice little debut for him though tonight. Like good to see him start on the wrong foot, on the right foot. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you got this. Okay. We all knew what you meant. So Oyo Gio asked, he's a patron of Keeping Carlson. One benefit of being a patron is I always ask for people to give suggestions of who they want us to talk about on the main show. He wanted us to talk about Jacob Chikrin, who did have an assist today, which is nice, but he's wondering if we're approaching snoozer territory, which is crazy to me because I remember being so mad when I got sniped, on him in the draft, and he had a decent stretch early on in the season. But yeah, this assist today was his first point in 6 games, and he only has like 2 assists now in his last 10 games. So it's been a real cold stretch for Jacob Chikrin. Is he someone you have to consider as like a snoozer? By the way, a snoozer means when we call someone a snoozer, that means we're saying that like if you still have this person on your roster, then you're not paying attention and you got to like shape up and play right and drop this person. So are we at that stage with Jacob Chikrin, 2 assists in the last 10 games? And only 2 shots in his last 3 games. The shots, but that's a very small sample. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I understand you're getting there, but even with this cold streak, Chikrin's on a 55-point pace. The thing is that I don't think he's going to keep that up because now he's like definitely on what appears to be a second, like getting like the minority share of power play time, and he had 10 power play points in his first 42 games. So if his power play deployment continues to not be great, then he's not going to get another 10 on the back half of the season, which means he's more of a 45, 50 point guy than a 55 point guy. Um, he's been colder than I would expect, and obviously he's not shooting as much as we'd like, and that I think that is related to the power play. So also don't expect those shots to really. I mean, the last couple games have been especially bad, but don't expect him to start shooting the way he did when we like really loved him. Um, it's weird. It's I think there's also like there's a lot. Everything's weird in Ottawa. Like they're just like it's a bad team again, and everyone wants to figure out like who to blame, but like blaming doesn't get you anywhere because this is like the third year in a row now where Ottawa was like, oh, this could be the year they take the step forward, and they haven't. And I think Chikrin is sort of like wrapped up in all that. Like I've seen some desire like already to see like, okay, well, what can we get for him in a trade? Like, it's time to move on already? Whatever the vision was in acquiring him, I don't think it's panned out. Management, his like coach, owner, or well, not owner, but coach and GM have both changed since then. So we'll see exactly how that impacts Chikrin going forward. I don't think he's a drop. I think he'll still give you something, but he might not give you as much as you would have liked. If you have him, you were swinging for a really big season ahead, and I don't think you're going to get it.
yeah, that's fair. Yeah, it's like don't drop him. He's not like nothing, but you maybe biffed that draft pick a little bit. But yeah, you'll still get something, hopefully. And the power plays could change, maybe at some point. That's what you got to hope for. All right, Brian, how much time do we have left to talk about the Blue Jackets, just so I don't
Enough. Two and a
bite
half
off too
minutes.
much? Okay, so obviously the big news in Columbus is that Boone Jenner is back. He hadn't played since December 8th, but it's on January 19th. He came back, and unfortunately, it wasn't a great game for Columbus. They lost 4-1 to the Devils with Vitek Vanacek in net. You only scored one against Vanacek. I don't know. It's not that great, Boone. No points for him. Only one shot. He did have a hit, 2 blocks. Not a very exciting return. He did play 19 minutes. It's like these other guys we talked about that had their returns, like Couture, Pinto. They didn't play that much. They were able to still get an assist. Jenner got the full workload that he's used to, but couldn't manage anything against Vanacek again, I'll say. But still, you got to be kind of interested in him, the line combos for that game. And again, like maybe it's not worth reading too much into the lines because look at Brian just set a timer on Zoom. That's so cool. I love that. So yeah, after a loss like this, you would imagine Columbus next week for a 4-game week maybe changes things around as they always like to do. Actually, I might as well just check game day lines to see what if they have had a practice. And oh yeah, they had a practice today. All right, so Gaudreau, Sillinger, and Chinnikov, and then Fantilli, Jenner, and Roslovic, and then Johnson, Voronkov, Marchenko. All right. So yeah, so Boone Jenner's playing with Fantilli and Roslovic. It's not great. Like, I don't know how excited are you about Boone Jenner? I know you just traded him in Cupful. So are you like after seeing this return, be like, phew, I
I
dodged a
wish him
bullet?
the worst. Is what I wish for Boone Jenner after I traded Boone Jenner because I didn't have enough IR spots. And then I found out the day after the trade was agreed to that, oh, he's coming back in like 36 hours. And at the same time I returned, Nick Schmaltz got injured. I'm losing my mind over here. But Boone
But Kane
Jenner,
is back and he had a good game last game.
yeah, Evander Kane was also in the return. Yeah. Jenner, yeah, one shot, 19 minutes, power play two, although it's hard to tell which one's power play two. I guess before the injury, Jenner was on like a 50-point pace. He had 13 goals and 5 assists in 29 games. Lengthy, quiet spells for Jenner, punctuated with like a couple hat tricks. And he was just finally finding a groove before getting injured. And I think probably a 50-point pace is safe to expect the rest of the way. His own shooting percentage is too high, but also his teammates weren't scoring. So I expect maybe those will each regress and cancel each other out to get Boone back to about a 50-ish point pace. Like I'm worried about anyone on Columbus really being that productive, but hey, the Blue Jackets could be better off with Jenner back all around, and like Jenner could benefit from his own presence too, is a funny way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, Gaudreau is hot. He's doing well now. And Elvis Merzlikins, after being benched for a long time, had one good game and then that one bad game against New Jersey. But that's all the time we have to talk about the Blue Jackets. We are going to take a break and then we'll hit our next group of 5 teams. Thanks for listening. We'll be back in a sec. All right, we are back, Brian. Don't forget, we have to do 5 teams every 20 minutes, and we also have to fit in 2 bonus teams throughout all of this. So we weren't able to hit a bonus team, but the timer has started for the next group. So let's go right to the Buffalo Sabres. Like Ottawa, right? This season hasn't gone for Buffalo the way it was supposed to. Like I thought this was going to be a good year for them. One thing I definitely got wrong is I thought that Devin Levi, and I mean for good reason, he like at the start of the season, Devin Levi was getting a bunch of starts. He was supposed to be the starter, but he is not the starter. The starter is definitely right now Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, and he is crushing it. Luukkonen is like one of the hottest goalies in the league at this point. He's coming off a win over Tampa Bay, where he only let in 2 goals. And before that, he had 2 straight shutouts against Chicago and San Jose. Sorry, it was a loss against Tampa Bay, but not his fault, right? 3-1 for the Lightning. So Luukkonen is great. Like it's gotten to a point now where they sent Devin Levi down to the minors just so he can play a game because they were like, we don't want Eric Comrie, but we do want Levi to actually play some. So they sent him down just to play a game. Now he's back just to back up UPL again. So, anyways, if UPL, we had just today, I was answering a Patreon question where someone was asking if they should add UPL. It was like UPL or Alex Lyon, who was also really, it's like both of these guys are playing every game. But I'd go UPL even over him. He's been incredible.
Yeah, yeah. And what we said last week about Luukkonen is like you just need to worry about when the wheels fall off because Luukkonen hasn't done this well over any significant period of time. And I wonder if we've already actually hit that moment after all this praise you just showered Luukkonen with. I'll mention like he against Tampa in his most recent outing, he stopped 13 of 15 and took the loss, which is like kind of his fault and kind of not. What
I
you're
mean,
shrugging your
yeah.
shoulders because he didn't
It's
deserve
two
the
goals
loss?
against. Like it's 2 goals against at the end of the day. Like you can't really like
Yeah,
fine.
but
Like
if he keeps that save percentage up, it would have been 4 goals against if he
it's
faced
also
twice
the
as many
Tampa
shots.
Bay. Yeah, it's Tampa Bay. Like I
Yeah,
don't know.
and
I'm not going to be
then
like, oh, the wheels have fallen
okay,
off. And also,
no,
he's young. Like where he's still learning. Maybe he's finally coming to
ah,
his own.
yeah. I mean, like you know what I believed that there was room for like he's 24 years old. He turns 25 in like 6 weeks, so there is still definitely time for Luukkonen to do better and grow. And he was a second round pick, so like sure. But my feeling on goalie is like Luukkonen has already had some. We'll see, Elon. Like I'll keep an open mind. I will say, like the Tampa game was not great, and before that, he had 2 straight shutouts at home against San Jose and Chicago, where he made 47 saves over the course of the 2 nights. So you want him, you do. Like go get him. He's playing great, but also I'm just like clearly I'm not bought in, right? Like this is
Sure.
really gonna
And that's
last.
like the smart
So
thing.
when you
That's a
say
smart thing to say, anyways.
yeah, so when you say
Because
Alex Lyon versus Luukkonen, like I would actually stick with Lyon, just because I
fair.
think he's more likely to keep starting than Luukkonen is. but teach their own.
No, I might go Lion as well. It's like the kind of thing where, first of all, you're very smart to say for any goalie that's doing well, they're not going to keep it up because that's just kind of how every goalie goes, unless
Easy.
you're on Winnipeg. But I do like hear you, but also like Lukanen, like you can't be like your like whole like goalies never change for a guy who's only played like 60 career games now, and this is his first
Hmm.
season like actually being getting a shot as being like a clear starter. So we'll see. It's exciting. Dalin is hot. We don't have time to talk about him, but obviously he's very great and he's really gone better lately. On the opposite side, I do want to talk about Tage Thompson, Brian, who continues to kind of like disappoint. He had like a couple good games recently where he like scored a couple goals and he was taking a lot of shots, but now like since he's pointless for 4 games in a row, only 1 and 2 shots in his last couple games. Like I know he's not going to like be droppable. I know he's not like nothing, but like I think it's time to probably like come to grips with the fact that he shouldn't have been a first round pick in fantasy, right? Like he's not,
Yeah.
he hadn't proven it, and now he's showing that maybe one day he'll like maybe next year probably like second, third round, in my opinion.
Yeah, this is where we disagree because I think Tage had proven it and just hasn't followed through on it. And like you might think that you need a longer track record, but like all the indicators were there for a solid year and a half. And that was enough for me to see that Thompson was for real and deserved to be a first round pick. I don't think if you did it, you should be kicking yourself about it. Like you can be sad about it now. Like that's reasonable. And you can kick yourself that way. But at the time, I still think it was a reasonable decision. Like you said, Elon, like Tage Thompson had been shooting, and now he has just 3 shots over his last 2 games, which isn't great. One factor here is that he's down 60 seconds a night at 5-on-5. So he's playing less. That's less opportunity to shoot. It might be a little like that might kind of be skewed by, him having missed chunks of some games due to injury. But yeah, definitely not playing like first round material. He's not consistently elite. 62-point pace. And I think all you can do at this point with Thompson is hope for the best. But if anyone wants to, I think you should be open to trade offers around him. And actually, there's a couple guys we'll get to later in the show that I'm going to ask you, Tager that guy. And I'm curious to see how it shakes out because there are a couple cases where I think we'll agree, and there's one where we might not. Little teaser.
Okay, sounds fun. Yeah, I just you say like, oh, you shouldn't kick yourself because blah blah blah, but like I could have taken Kale McCarr, so I'm gonna kick
Yeah,
myself.
I could have taken
That's
Kucherov over Kaprizov. There's a lot of things we could have done in the first round of the draft last year.
Yeah, but I feel like Kale McCarr had proven himself to be a super elite defenseman,
So why
top
didn't
like.
do you remember why you didn't?
Yeah, because I was a wimp. I was like, oh, he's a little injured. Like, oh, he's already like hurt in this preseason game. I don't want to deal with that. Like, stupid. I'm gonna learn my
It's not.
lesson.
I don't. What's so the lesson is it's okay to draft the guy who's is going to miss like 15 games.
Yeah, take the elite, actual elite for sure, no question, versus the guy who had one really good year
1.5.
in the first round. Okay, so next up, oh, I do want to, oh, ouch, my balls in our Discord wanted us to talk about Dylan Cousins, saying he's performing like a streamer. I think we've brought Cousins up a few times on the show already. I think, Brian, you're just going to concur, right? You're gonna be like, yeah, he's acting like a streamer. He probably should be a streamer. He did score in the last game. He did get that one goal against Tampa. But yeah, that brings him only to 23 points in 43 games overall, which is a 44-point pace. I'd expect him to be better than that. But yeah, he's not consistently on the top power play. That was his big thing last year. If he's not on the top power play, I don't think he's like a must hold.
Yeah, agree. Is Cousins is a streamer without top power play. I had him on my watch. Like, there's one league where he was dropped, and I thought he was dropped early. I'm like, oh, this is tasty. Like when I have a roster spot, limited move. So I was just like sort of waiting to have an injury to add Cousins, and then like that moment has never come. Like I thought it would be a freebie, a really good get, and no, he's in free. It's a shallowish league, but yeah, Cousins is just like a regular second line center. The talent's there but and the upside is too. But I don't think without the deployment that he had last year, it's not going too far.
So yeah, I guess with, oh wait, sorry, I got distracted for a second. Um, by the way, Brian, the thing what you said before about how like maybe it was smart to like, because like Kale McCarr is going to be injured or whatever. In the end, like I feel like maybe when you draft basing it on like projected injuries, like that's where you can hurt yourself. Because like look at this, and Tage Thompson has been injured more than McCarr. Also, look at like Mark Stone, who everyone was avoiding. He's played basically every game and has been incredible. So maybe there's another lesson there of just like draft the best guys and trust yourself that like if the person misses some time, you'll use the time to stream in fun goalies or whatever. You'll make the best of it. But anyways, okay, that is our time for Buffalo. Unless you really want to say something, we could
Okay,
eat
Brent,
into
I'm just gonna
Montreal.
share an argument and then move right on ahead. No, I hear you. I think you were really worried about it. I remember you were so worried about injuries, and I think going into the season, you're like, I'm not drafting injury-prone players. Like I am going to avoid that entirely, and I know that's why you didn't choose Kale McCarr.
Yeah, so this is all a learning experience. I
I
won the
don't think you were
couple. You
wrong.
would you would think that like if you're a couple ultimate champion, you should like have like know all the knowledge, but that's not how it works. There's always I keep learning and I keep getting humbled, and one day maybe I'll climb back there. But either way, I'm gonna have a good time and I'm gonna share my knowledge with the listeners of this podcast, all of my sad lessons I learned. Okay, let's go to the Montreal Canadiens, a team that is maybe even doing better than we would have expected them to be. Like I would have thought they would be like bottom three in the league this year, but now they're already here on part two of part one of the episode. So congrats to them, 45 points. Who knows? They're tied with like Minnesota, one behind St. Louis. Like there's still room to grow for Montreal. A lot of it is based on Montembeault being a lot better than we expected. We already talked about him on a recent show. Um, I got to give some credit, by the way, to Cole Caulfield, who is on an incredible run right now. They talked about him on a recent short shifts episode, so we don't need to dive in too much, but he's got 8 points in his last 6 games. He's scored in 5 games straight. We had a question, I think it was in our short shifts group chat. There was a trade that was offered to someone. It was like Stutzla for Caulfield plus or whatever. And it was like, and I remember I wrote something like, Caulfield might not even be that far away from Stutzla. And then I think someone else in the chat was like, you're crazy. Like, and I'm just curious, like Caulfield is like, if he continues at this pace that he's been on recently, scoring every game, of course he's not going to score every game, but the shots are pretty nice, right? He's got like 4.5 shots on average per game over this past 10 or so. So I maintain, I'm not saying that like Caulfield is Stutzla, but I think he might be a bit better even like I think he's overperformed his draft stock, I guess, like going into the season.
Yeah, I don't know, Elon. Like Caulfield's done exactly what he did last year. Like he's on almost exactly the same pace, and I think we were expecting a
Yeah.
step forward. So I don't know that Caulfield has. I
I
think
guess
he's
I'm just looking at,
underperformed.
at how things are now. I guess I'm
Okay,
looking recently.
yeah, I don't think Caulfield. I think Caulfield has underperformed his draft stock, but I don't think that he's going to continue underperforming his draft stock. Caulfield's on a 5 game goal streak. He's got 20 shots in that span. And if you think I'm going to be like, oh, it's a 25% shooting percentage, not going to last, I'm not. Because Caulfield has like had 7 shots the game before it began, and like it's Caulfield's good. Okay, he scores on a lot of his shots. His shots are good, high danger. So far, just a 62-point pace, but his at 5 on 5, Caulfield's only shooting 6.5%, when I think he's at least a 10% shooter at 5 on 5. And then his on ice shooting percentage also low at 7%. So you grasp both of those. And I could see Caulfield like the rest of the way pacing for 40 goals and 70 plus points. So, Elon, I think we'll both agree. But if you have Tage Thompson and you want to trade him for Cole Caulfield and you
Mm.
can do that, I would do that.
You would get Caulfield over Thompson. I mean,
Yeah.
I I'm disappointed, but I hear you. Okay,
Well,
but
so you have Thompson. Would you trade him for Caulfield?
I will have to agonize over it for like 3 days first, but it's
Okay,
maybe.
keep us
But okay,
posted.
I have something else to talk about on Montreal here. We have 30 seconds, but there's two guys on hot streaks in different situations. Okay, Yaroslavkovsky is playing. I don't know Uraj, playing with Caulfield and Suzuki, and also on the top power play. So like the best spot you can be, and he's been like pretty solid. He got an assist in the last game, nothing in the game before that versus Ottawa, but had goals in 2 straight games before that. You can't argue with that deployment. This is the Kirby Doc deployment that was so great last year. Or you can look at a Sean Monahan who's on the top power play but at even strength playing with Armia and Josh Roy, who is a rookie who's just come up. But Monahan's like super hot, 7 points in his last 4 games. So if you wanted a hab, would you go line one, power play one, Slavkovsky, not as hot, but better spot and also obviously higher pedigree, or a tried and true, boring Sean Monahan, who's on a hot streak, top power play, but not the best even strength deployment?
Oh, it's a tough one. I think I would go Monahan. I think I would. He just seems like a more of a sure thing. And Slavkovsky, I'm just looking at the last 2 games. I'm not sure how much his coach cares. But he's been a -3 in each of his last 2 games, and that line is losing. Actually, they held steady in the shot attempt share battle against Boston on Saturday night. So I don't know, maybe they just got outscored. So we'll see. Like they got to score 2-0 as a line. I think I'll go Monahan. Elon, he's just like this is Monahan's second season of just being like a 55-point pace player. That's thanks to like this run that he has 7 points in his last 4 games, all assists, two of them on the power play, and only 6 shots over the last 4 games. So yes, this is exactly boring Sean Monahan, but I think he can keep up 50 to 55 points. And Slavkovsky, I think, is going to be more hit or miss. So Slavkovsky's the swing, and Monahan is the safe. And I don't know.
I go
Depends on where
Monahan
I'm
as
at in my
well.
matchup. Yeah.
Brian, I'll tell you where we are in our recording matchup. We suck
Oh,
because we've
yeah,
only
this is
done two
bad.
teams and we have 6 minutes and a half left. So let's go hurry up mode for these next three here. Minnesota. Okay, Spurgeon is out for the season. That's not good. Minnesota played today against Carolina, got the win. 2 goals for our good friend. Oh, a hat trick. Sorry, my mistake. For Kaprizov. So he's incredible. And he was also really good before his injury. So he's, you know what, Brian, when you were like, saying, oh, I could have drafted Kucherov over Kaprizov. And lately, Kaprizov is making up for some lost time, hopefully for you. Also Brock Faber on a great hot streak. So back on the show, we were like, pause the pod, grab Brock Faber. That was correct. 2 assists today. I don't think we have anything new to say about any of these guys. Any Minnesota thoughts before we jump to someone else?
I would just say the goaltending situation in Minnesota is super weird. Like now Fleury's injured, so we don't know. But like Gustafsson came back and stunk, and then Fleury sort of came in and did okay and was still doing okay and then got hurt. So it's refreshing to see Gustafsson have a good game today, and we'll see if he can have another. But Minnesota is actually the fourth best team in the NHL defensively at 5-on-5 per expected goals against rates, and yet they give up. They rank 20th in actual goals against, and similarly in save percentage. And I have no idea if the goalies will perform any better. They're being set up to succeed and not following through. So that's a bummer. Also, sorry, Elon, I know we're in a rush, but Joel Eriksson Ek, Joel
He's
Eriksson
good.
wrecked me this week in Cupful. Like just like this guy, he does not quit. He had 45 Cupful points this week, 4 goals, 4 assists, 18 shots, 5 hits, 5 blocks, a shorthanded. Like, get out of here. What am I
Draft
supposed to do
steal.
with that?
You should have drafted him. That's all.
Yeah,
Otherwise, you lose.
yeah.
That's how it goes. All right. Yeah, he's great. Next year, he's going to get drafted a lot higher. It'll be fun in the summer to discuss if we think he's for real as like a third round pick, which is probably where he would go. Okay. St. Louis Blues are next. Blues have a great schedule next week. Perfect time, Brian. I talked about this on Matchup Maximizer. Really, I think I said there, I'm going to ask you about this today. You have your top three, Buchnevich, Kyrou, and Rob Thomas. That's the easy ones. Next up, though, like with Blues playing 4 times and not on the busy Saturday, you want to grab someone. Do you go with Braden Shen? This is kind of like a Monahan Slavkovsky a little bit. Like Braden Shen, tried and true, pretty solid player. He's been on a bit of a run lately. He has 6 points in his last 6 games, so you can't complain about that. Or you can go with top power play Jake Neighbors, who was like super hot earlier in the year. Then, there was a coaching change and he kind of cooled off. But lately, Neighbors on the top power play scored a goal in the last game. If you wanted to stream in a Blues player to get this great schedule and you have both available, who are you leaning towards?
I think I'll lean Shen, even though he's off power play. Oh, you know what? Like I'm so back and forth. You're asking me like all these like razor's edge questions, and I feel like I should be more decisive, especially because I thought about this before we went on
I
air.
think it's fine letting
I
people know
think
that you think it's like a coin flip. So then it's like
Yeah.
take either one.
Yeah, it's a coin flip. And the reason I'd take Jake Neighbors is because he's on the top power play and he's been there for 4 games and he has 2 power play goals there. So that's good. The reason I wouldn't is because he only has 6 shots over those 4 games, which makes Neighbors fine for a deep stream. But like you're basically fishing for a power play point, which is okay. Like that's a strategy. And Braden Chen, the reason I would take him is because he has 6 points in his last 6 games. His shots have been all over the place. 6 shots, then one, then zero, then one, then two, then five. I don't see a pattern there. He's off the top power play. And even with this run of 6 points in 6 games, Shen is now up to a 41-point pace on the season. So the question is this a moment of relevance or more? I think it's just a moment. And so you could go, and that's why you wouldn't go with Shen, is because this seems like an aberration. Elon, I think I would go with the deployment in Jake Neighbors. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. But again, it could go either way. Probably the advice is just go for either of them just because of this great schedule. If you need to stream someone in, that could be like really helpful if you could get all 4 games, if you could get that Tuesday. Okay, let's finish off this section in Calgary. Yeah, I don't think there's too much to talk about. Like, it's all guys we've discussed. I guess one big thing is, of course, the goaltending. So Markstrom is going to be back soon. Vladar has actually been pretty decent, which is nice to see. So, I think with Calgary doing so well, Vladar's like gotten back into the conversation of like worth a stream when he plays. But obviously, if you grabbed him as a starter while Markstrom was hurt, now you could move on. Nazem Kadri, just incredible. I don't think we've talked about him enough this season. He's like turning into the guy that they signed to that big long contract after his great season in Colorado. Blake Coleman still going, and even Jonathan Huberdeau, 8 points in his last 7 games, which is obviously making Flames fans very happy and maybe a little bit less nervous about this contract. But yeah, these are all names of people that are probably rostered in your league. So I don't know what advice there is, but fun time to be cheering for Calgary with all their guys going well right now. Like
Yeah.
Sharangovich also. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going good. Kadri, 66-point pace thanks to 11 points in his last 9 games. He's got 8 goals in his last 12 games on 39 shots, shooting about 20%. And Kadri only has 7 power play points this year. So I actually think he can keep up this 66-point pace overall, but the goals won't keep coming. Like he's like a 10% shooter. So the goals will taper off, but I think he'll add some power play production to kind of offset it and stick to around the pace range that he's currently in. So Elon, here's what I want to ask you: if you were offered Kadri for
Kadri
Tage
for
Thompson,
Thompson.
would you
Oh my
take it?
God. Look, like I'm hoping Thompson is better than Kadri. Like we're talking about someone drafted in the first round versus like 10th round.
Draft day value doesn't matter
I
anymore.
know. I probably would say no. Like
So
I'd
would
probably
I.
keep Thompson, but
Yeah,
it will
I
hurt
would
every
too.
time Kadri scores.
Yeah, well, I
But
think like
Thompson, yeah.
Thompson's down Thompson on his low end is where Kadri is basically at right now, right? So
Yeah,
you can just hope for Thompson's upside to shine through. I'm with you.
yeah, so we're in agreement. By the way, Adam Henrique just scored a goal. So more to your Adam Henrique love.
Yes, I definitely said take him over Zetterland, 100%.
Okay, so Brian, that's it for part 2 of part 1. Did we ever name? Oh yeah, we have periods, right? This is the end of the second period of part 1. So we'll be back in just a sec to talk about 5 more teams and maybe even a bonus team if we get our act together. You're listening to Keeping Karlsson. All right, we are back. Thanks everyone for joining us for the Keeping Karlsson Ultimate Patron Fantasy Podcast, where we're talking about every single NHL team. Maybe we'll do this every week. Let us know if, like, last week we got good feedback. Maybe this week you're going to be like, now I'm kind of over it. So I'd be interested to hear. But okay, the timer's already started. Brian is merciless here. So let's go to the Seattle Kraken. It feels like we have a lot of time. We saw what happened last time with Buffalo and Montreal. So yeah, let's go right to Seattle. So Vince Dunn is hurt. I don't think it's like super serious. The latest news about Dunn, let me just hit up game day tweets. He's definitely not ready to go tonight. When you see something like that, it's like, okay, so it can't be that far away. If it's just like not ready tonight, we'll see about tomorrow night. Riker Evans on the top power play when Dunn's not there, so he's someone to look at. Also, Grubauer is skating, but at this point, like Decord would have to blow. Like I think we talked about this already. Like Decord seems to have stolen his job. McCann and Bjorkstrand hot. They always shift around. Right now, it's actually the 2 guys that probably would have expected to be hot. When you drafted them. So that's good to see. And as a deep cut for someone that might be available to you, if you can't get McCann or Bjorkstrand for a decent schedule next week for Seattle, playing 3 off-day games, Jordan Eberle has started to get going. 4 points in his last 4 games. He's playing with the aforementioned Jared McCann. Not too bad. So if you want to go for him, maybe you can wait till Wednesday. I don't know if I'm like rushing 3 a.m., set the alarm to like add Jordan Eberle. But if he's out there come Wednesday morning, I'd give him a shot for 3 off-day games.
Yeah, and he's on the top power play, where he hasn't been like all season. He's sort of been like on and off, getting the majority share of power play time, but he has pretty steadily for the last 5 or 6 games. Only 6 power play points in 41 games for Eberle so far this season. So maybe he can do better there. I think I still don't love his shot counts at all. Like he doesn't shoot for the most part. It's a bit of a bummer. So you could look at him, Elon. I actually thought maybe you were gonna go like for the deep cut, Andre Burakovsky, who's playing with Jaden Schwartz and Alex Wenberg, who is back again after being away and then back, and he had 3 points in 7 games, and then he got injured again. Actually, it's 6 games because he barely played. And he's already seen more minutes in this return from injury than he did in any of the 7 games between the last 2 injuries.
You're talking
So
about Burakovsky?
yeah,
He's been meh.
he's been
Who
meh.
cares?
All I was saying was I thought maybe I thought he might have been your deep cut and not Eberle, but I see you're going for Burakovsky. Jared McCann, of
No, I'm
course,
going
got
for
hot
Eberle.
as soon as everybody dropped him. And good for McCann. Like he started shooting again. Like I think that was the last straw was he wasn't shooting anymore. But over the last 4 games, McCann has 14 shots and he's got 4 goals on those 14 shots to show for it. So good for him. One of them came on the power play. And I think that covers it, right? Like Bjorkstrand is still good. I think you
Yeah.
covered the rest. I was actually, you know what, Elon? I was surprised that we got to Seattle so soon in the show. Like the way Decord's been playing too. Like I guess they couldn't buy a win because their goaltending was letting them down every night before. And like they still haven't made up for how rough that first quarter of the season was in their crease.
Yeah, they're 7-3 in their last 10. And this stretch right now, so Calgary has 47 points, so does Seattle, so does Arizona. Then Pittsburgh and the Islanders and New Jersey and Washington are all like within like 48 to 50. Then we have a couple of 51, another couple weeks of wins for Seattle, and they could like leapfrog into a playoff spot. So
You
yeah,
know
we're
what's
getting to a point now where we're at bubble teams.
you know what's very Seattle about this conversation is that you said like Vince Dunn is injured and like we didn't even talk about like who might play
I
on the
said
power
Riker
play.
Evans was
Yeah,
there,
yeah, but like that's
but
it.
I mean, but I would have if like Vince Dunn was expected to be out like long term. I think it's just like
Right.
1 or 2
Okay,
games.
that's why. Okay. Cool.
Okay, let's go to the Coyotes next. Okay, they have 47 points, just like Seattle and Calgary, but only 44 games played, so they're a little bit better. The Coyotes have a good schedule next week: Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday. And okay, what is there to say here? Okay, so Clayton Keller is very good right now. He's got an insane shots on goal. It was like 8 or 9 shots in his last couple of games. So Keller definitely starting to provide that. Ever since we talked about him on the podcast, that one of the patrons wanted us to talk about, like, is Keller a bit of a bust based on where he was drafted? We had 9 shots in the last game versus Nashville and 2 goals, 8 shots in the game before that versus Vancouver, 10 points in his last 7 games. So Keller is scorching. You want people playing with Keller. Unfortunately, the last game was kind of bonkers. Like part of the game he played with Michelli and Bjugstad, and part of the game he played with Genther and Cooley. And like when Arizona released their line combos for that game, it was just like Genther and Cooley, like with nobody, almost as if Keller was like a rover, like to play sometimes with one line and sometimes with another line. So I'll be interested to see. I want definitely the people playing with Keller. I feel like it's very hard to know right now who that will be for Monday. Even if you do see lines on game day tweets, it might shift around, but makes all 4 of those guys at least somewhat interesting. Schmaltz is out, by the way. Like you said, Brian, he's out Monday for sure. We'll see after that. But at this point, maybe we can make our Arizona conversation about a potential snoozer, or at least someone I'm curious to know if you're concerned about. Lawson Krause, who's been like such a, a great surprise this season, doing so much better than people were expecting. He was in a lot of free agencies, got picked up early, and has been incredible. But lately, so he's pointless in his last 3 games. Before that, he had a minor like 3 game point streak. Before that, he was pointless in a couple. You put it all together, now we're at only a 51 point pace on the season for Kraus, which is inching towards his 48 point pace from last year. So after all of this excitement, he's kind of falling back to where he was. I feel like this is where Brian, you should step in and be like, I got to imagine you predicted at some point he'd fall off. It just seems like something you would have said, but remind me what your take was and how you're feeling now about Kraus.
I think he did look legitimately better, and we thought maybe he was taking a step forward. So I'm not going to be like so smart and say, yeah, of course he's regressing, because I'm not sure that is what we thought about Chris through the season. But now it sure looks like that's where he's at. Yeah, as he falls back towards that sort of last year was a 48 point pace, like you said, he's at a 58 point pace now. And I'm
51.
looking 51. Oh, okay. Thanks for clarifying.
Well,
Um,
58 versus 51, big difference.
48.
No, you said 58, but it's okay. Yeah.
Oh my
You said,
gosh.
okay.
Okay.
I know you
Thank
meant
you. Okay.
51.
Well, then I take the sarcasm out of my comment. But but Kraus still, you know what? He's lost some ice versus last year, but his underlying numbers are still improved versus last year. He's attempting more shots overall. More shots are reaching the net. He's got a higher expected goals rate. So, all of that, we'll see how that like trends through the rest of the season, and if this apparent valley where he hasn't taken a shot for 2 games now. If that continues, then it's like, oh yeah, like we're seeing a change here. But if he can sort of just like keep going I'm not necessarily that means that translates to him being a 55 plus point guy, but it would help if he could keep doing what he was doing for most of the first half of the season. So I haven't lost hope yet, but I think in most leagues, even the way he was going, he was still sort of a fringe guy. So if you're waiting for permission to drop, you probably have it until he starts shooting again.
Yeah, like it's hard always to hold these like non-top power play guys, especially now, like you say, if they're not shooting. Well, okay, 15 seconds left for Arizona. We'll eat a little bit into the next team. Who is like right now the best stream? Like, okay, obviously there's Keller and Dersey. We haven't mentioned Sean Dersey's like running hot again, so great for him. I hope if he's not rostered in your league, like definitely go grab him. But aside from those two, who's like even the next best now that Schmaltz is out? And I guess you could even include Kraus, but if Kraus is the answer, then maybe I'll like ask you to pick someone else. You can go with like Ganther or Cooley or Michelli or Bjugstad. Like Arizona has a good schedule next week. Let's say Kraus also isn't available, just to make it a little more challenging. Is there someone who are you jumping to?
Yeah. I think I'm just hoping Schmaltz is better. Like there's really no like there's been a lot of like like Jason Zucker has 3 points in his last 4 games with exactly 2 shots in each of his last 4 games, which is about as boring as we'd expect Jason Zucker's game log to be. Cooley takes like 2 or 3 shots a night and he's playing a lot with Keller. So or he did in the last game. So I think I might like try him and see if he can pull something off. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, there's nobody who's really doing great except, yeah, you mentioned already Keller's 17 shots over 2 games. That's like Jack Hughes like, right? That's amazing. And we said we expected better from Keller, and we're seeing it already, which is great. It would just be great if he could like drag 1 or 2 guys along with him for the ride, aside from Sean Dersey, who I'm not certain he's dragging. So just to be clear, yeah.
Yeah. By the way, the person who I like acquired, I acquired Sean Jersey in a trading couple. One of the big pieces I sent the other way was Eric Carlson. So let's go next to the Pittsburgh Penguins. Not that we need to compare the two. I don't think I'd want to because Carlson is doing awesome, but I'm happy for him because he's the namesake of our podcast. Big fan of the guy. Yeah, he's great. 9 points in his last 8 games. Had a rough stretch there, but it's still like a ton of power play points. Like in this run, it's just 2 power play points in this like stretch of 8 games. But he's making up for it at even strength. He had a big like 6 shot game a couple games ago. So yeah, Eric Carlson overall now 32 points in 43 games. So definitely far away from what he did last year, right? He's pacing for 61, but also far away than how he was looking at the start of the year, where it was looking really rough for a while.
Yeah, well, the power play was always needing to turn around for Karlsson in Pittsburgh, and it still hasn't fully. Like the power play production still isn't coming as much as it should, and I still think it will. Like compared, I already talked about San Jose's power play last year. The Penguins' power play is about 50% more dangerous per 60 minutes if I'm comparing expected goals rates with the man advantage versus the San Jose power play last year. So it doesn't really compute that Karlsson was so successful. I mean, most of the reason why Karlsson had a crazy year last year was because of his 5-on-5 play, but he still did well in the power play, and we're not seeing that. So I still expect to. He's up to a 60-point pace because of this 8-game point streak where he has a goal and 8 assists with 18 shots. There were only 2 games in that 8-game streak, though, where he had more than 2 shots on goal, which is like a little that's disappointing for Karlsson. But he did have and he only, again, going back to the power play, 2 power play points in 8 games, where I'd rather see him do like a little better than a power play point every 4 games. So I assume that'll come, and that the 60-point pace Karlsson's currently on can move up to a 65-point pace, maybe, and even creep towards 70 if things get really good. But if you gave up on Karlsson early, or you're waiting for him to come around, I think he is. I think he has, and I think he'll continue to. But we've also seen him run like that's not a promise. It's going to be consistent all the rest of the way through because he has run so hot and cold this season. But I don't know how long. I feel like we're reaching what was it? I think Nashville, like we've referenced them a lot in terms of like power play. There's guys that like for years we were just like, yeah, as soon as the power play gets going, they'll be fine. And then it just never did. And I
Right.
hope that's not the case with Pittsburgh this year, but it's starting to rival that stretch.
By the way, I'll mention also on Pittsburgh, Rickard Rakell's still off the top power play. Right? I think we talked about that. Rust bumped him. That's held for now. We'll see. Rakell had a good game a couple games ago against
He
Seattle.
did.
Got a couple
Yeah.
assists. So he's
I'm
definitely not
also,
droppable. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. You said Raquel is droppable or not
No, I said he's
droppable?
not
Yeah.
droppable. Like I would hold
Yeah.
him.
I'm in a shallow enough league that I dropped him because you don't need to roster anyone who's not on a top power play. And there were other
Fair.
guys coming off IR. But yeah, in a deep enough, like in Cupful deep, 250 players, rosterable until he's quiet for a longer period of time. This is Raquel. I'll also mention Tristan Jari. Like some people lost patience with him and dropped. People were really ready to cut bait after he had a couple bad games and Nadalkovich came in and did well. But Jari came in for relief for Nadalkovich against Vancouver, and since then has added three more starts consecutively. And in those 3.5 games, or 3 2/3, Jari has a 934 save percentage. He's 1-1-2 record. He's only won one of the four decisions, but he's doing his part and has only had one substandard start. But that was against Vegas, so maybe you forgive him. He stopped 26 of 29, and I feel like I don't know that Jari's ever going to be a workhorse without really cleaning up his game and being consistently good. But I feel like when we weren't sure if he had been like demoted to number two or 1B or 50-50, I feel like he's at least back in 1A territory again based on the start pattern here.
Yeah, I agree with you, but also like I think if you could get a really good return for him now, I wouldn't mind because I
Yeah.
think I have a feeling we'll have that conversation again at some point this
It would
year
be it
where
would be
he's cold.
nice if you could, yeah, use this opportunity to get off the Jari train. I would encourage you to try.
Okay, let's go next to the Islanders. A time check here. We got 6 minutes for two teams. No problem. Big news on the island is they lost that game to Chicago. I saw a lot of people on Twitter really like being mad at Lambert for benching Mike Riley. They were like, "Fire Lambert! How are they benching Mike Riley and letting the fake Sebastian Aho play?" And the next thing you do, he was fired. And check it out, they got a new coach, Patrick Waugh. I remember when we started keeping Karlsson. I remember one of our first like big like storylines we were following was Colorado was having this incredible year with Roy as the coach, but then you were like teaching us all about PDO and saying how like they were riding this big PDO wave and Roy won Coach of the Year, but then the next year like Colorado stunk, and you were like, I told you, but like with your voice and not that like nerd voice. Anyways. So now Wah gets another shot on the Islanders. The vibes on Twitter for this have been good. Like a lot of the insiders, whatever, saying they think he's a really good coach. He's done really well, in the minors, whatever he's been up to. Right now, it's 2-1 for Dallas over the Islanders. We'll see how this game shakes out. Obviously, like Dallas is a tough team to come against. You don't want to just say he's a bad coach if they lose to them. But any thoughts fantasy wise? Like, is there any implication here of players you're like more or less interested in? Like, I guess actually, let me just quickly check the lines for today for the Islanders. They've been running, yeah, so Lee, Horvat, Barzal, and then Palmieri, Nelson, and Hudson Fashion. Yeah, so they haven't changed the lines yet. We'll see if Hua, needs some time to observe the team. Then if they do anything crazy, that'll be interesting to check in on.
Yeah, I was really excited when I heard about the coaching change, but then I think was it Shams? Shams shared some like of the Twitter reaction, and like there are a couple like legit people who I generally trust were like, no, Patrick was like really cleaned up his coaching. Like he looks like he knows what he's doing this time around, and he's worked hard. And like I believe it. Like he's such a competitive guy, and he had to work so hard to get back. Um, and it took him a long time. So I'm not ruling out the possibility of that, but like Juan Lamorello together just seems entertaining. So like I'm hoping for entertainment value, but for Isles fans, I hope it works out on the whole. I don't see it really changing any real fantasy impact for the Isles. The only guy I hope it really doesn't touch is Noah freaking Dobson, who still has 46 points in 46 games, 6 goals, 40 assists, 17 power play points. So yeah, just like whatever you do, Patrick, just let the Dobson magic continue. And I've said earlier in the season that it's going to regress. I still think it will somewhat to like maybe 70 points, but it hasn't. And boy, has it been, I have him in one league. Feels so good.
I'd imagine. By the way, another goal for Adam Henrique, Ryan. So yeah, I guess I'll still say Zetterlund, but like obviously today I'd rather have Henrique. Okay, over to New Jersey. 3 minutes to go. We'll have to hit our bonus teams next part two. But yeah, in New Jersey, I guess the big news is that Timo Meyer is back from his injury. He's played 3 games so far, 2 assists, 10 shots, like pretty good numbers. The thing for me that I'm always skeptical about is like Jack Hughes is out. And like he did well also before when Jack Hughes was out. It was when Hughes was back and then Meyer was kind of pushed down the lineup. Like, Meyer's been on the top power play. Last time before he got injured, he wasn't on the top power play. So I think enjoy it for now. But also kind of like what we were saying about Jari. I'm curious to get your opinion. I wonder if now is a good time to try to sell while he's doing well. but maybe that's silly and just like maybe he's just like taking this injury time, as I often like to say. Like maybe he took the time to get his head right, and now actually he's just like back to the Timo Meyer we grew to know and love.
Now's a good time to sell him, but I don't think you're going to get, I think the value you get back for him is going to be the same as it was before. And you probably weren't happy enough with that to actually move him. And I guess my hope for Timo Meyer here, like the best case scenario is that he gets rolling. Like with him, I just want to know the shot rate. Like I don't even really care that much about the points for now. And like you said, 10 shots over his last 3 games. That's good. It's not like full on Timo, but like over 3 shots a game. Good stuff. And then, so my hope is that Timo gets rolling, builds confidence, gets hot, and then Jack Hughes comes back and Timo has like a place where he can just keep it up, right? Because part of me wonders that Timo Meyer just never really had the opportunity to do all he needs to do, like to be in the groove or whatever, like he couldn't be as active as he can be now that Hughes is out of the lineup. And I just hope that sort of opens the door for him to find his game in time for Jack Hughes's return.
Yeah,
That's my hopeful theory around Timo Meyer and the way forward, the positive way forward from here.
I mean, the thing is, it's all about the power play, in my opinion. It's like, right now they're rolling Heishier, Bratt, Meyer, Toffoli, and Luke Hughes. And I feel like if past history is an indication, Meyer steps away for Jack Hughes. We'll see if like they decide to bump a Bratt, Heishier, or Toffoli, but they didn't before. With our last time on New Jersey, speaking of that top power play, is Luke Hughes maybe a snoozer? Brian, like everyone jumped on him when Hamilton was announced injured, and for good reason. You want to have the top power play guy on New Jersey, but somehow, even with this awesome deployment, only 1 point in his last 6 games. Doesn't shoot too much, like barely any hits or blocks. I feel like in a league like the Cupful, yeah, I would be very like I don't have him, and I remember being bummed that I didn't grab him when I had the chance, and now I'm kind of like, I don't know if I had him, I'd probably be really stressed out and wondering if I probably wouldn't drop because I just find it so hard to drop a top power play guy in such a good spot. You'd think like at any moment he's going to do something. He had a power play goal like 3 games ago, but otherwise it's been pretty barren.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. There were a couple opportunities I had to add or trade for Luke Hughes that I passed up, and I was like worried I'd kick myself because the rationale was you want the guy on the top New Jersey power play. But like you said, Elon, pretty underwhelming results outside of that power play. 45-point pace, 1.5 shots per game, no other peripherals to speak of. Hughes has delivered on the power play, 12 power play points in 44 games, and that's good, but that's all. Hughes' 5-on-5 production barely existent. And so I think Hughes is a snoozer in formats where power play points aren't a specific category or assists. Like if he's not making enough of a dent for you in those, if those aren't valuable enough, I think you can just go ahead and move on.
Yeah, I hear you. Also, I'd still be super tempted to add him if he was
Yeah,
dropped in
like
my league.
I would
So
absolutely stream him. Like if I had open D, and also like it's the Jack Hughes factor too, right? Like when Hughes comes back and is on that power play, like they could score a power play goal every single game, and Hughes can be on like all of
yeah,
those. Yeah,
good point. Okay. Well, that's it for part one. Hopefully everyone's enjoyed as we've gone through 15 teams of the 32. Uh, if you've been enjoying this episode, guess what? You still got like twice as much to go. Well, no, equal as much to go. How do you say that? Anyways, it should already be downloaded and ready for you to listen to in your podcast feed, assuming you're subscribed to Keeping Karlsson. We'd appreciate you do subscribe if you're not. But yeah, we'll talk to you soon. I guess there's nothing more for me to say except adios, and we'll see you in a moment for part two. Bye bye.
it's not goodbye. It's see you later.
Exactly.
See you sooner.
I
Yes. Oh, huh?
go.
You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Hang on. Let me get the timer ready.
No, the timer doesn't start until like you at least finish the intro, I think.
Yeah, but
Okay.
I'm
Okay, let's
preparing
have it ready.
it.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. Yes, welcome everybody back. Oh no, let me try that again. Sorry, I wasn't ready. My mind was elsewhere. Okay. Okay. It's hard. It's hard for me. Okay. Yes, welcome to part two of the doubleheader of this week's Keeping Carlson Mega Show. I am Brian Com with my co-host Elon Dabrowski, and we have covered 15 of the 32 teams in the NHL, which means we have 60 minutes to do the other 17. It's just over. We have a timer set up. You heard all about it in the last show. Again, I'll echo what Elon said on the front end. if you have like this seemed to work well last week, if it's working well, like let us know if it's working well for you or not. I think it could be like a format that sticks depending on feedback here. So please let us know. And thanks for joining us as we get to the top half of the NHL and the teams that are doing the best in the standings. Elon, I'm trying to figure out, I think, did you sort by total points or did you sort by points percentage when you were
Total
sorting the
points.
standings?
I
Okay.
sorted my total
Yeah.
points.
Because our lists don't exactly match, which means like there's some teams who have played fewer games and they deserve to be a little higher. Anyway, that's okay. Like this, the general idea is there. It's not so different.
Yeah, we're not like so super high tech here. Maybe if one day we have an intern, we can get someone to sort by a points percentage. But this is what we're working with. So Brian, I'm ready to go. If you are, we're gonna have to fit in two bonus teams here. So we'll do our best. If you don't, but the problem is I love chatting hockey with Brian. So it's like I keep wanting to say things, and then this stupid timer is like telling me to be quiet. But it's like I don't want to. I want to talk to Brian. But we'll see if there's a team here that's boring at some point. So Brian, I'm ready for you to start the timer and then we will be able to get going here. I don't want to cheat here and start talking about the Capitals, but here we are. The timer has begun. They have 50 points. So, okay, there's 16 teams that make the playoffs. So, theoretically, everyone that we talk about in this second half of the show could make the playoffs except for one. So, maybe let me know, Brian, as we go through, which is the team that you think won't make it. And maybe there might be
Washington.
multiple. Okay, well, here we go then. Yeah, so Washington right off the bat. The Capitals obviously had a big outjury. And I'm not talking about Ovechkin, who also missed some time, but the guy making the impact lately has been TJ Oshie, who's been covered on short shifts. Jeremy said to pause the pod. He stole our bit, but that's okay. He can have it. We're on the same network, right? But yeah, he said pause the pod and add TJ Oshie if he's available for you. Then he went and put up a real stinker, actually, versus St. Louis. Unfortunately, no shots and no points, only a hit and a block. But to be fair, the whole team stunk. They got shut out. Before that, yeah, hat trick versus the Blues in the game before that, and like points in his previous three games. So TJ Oshie in a great spot on the top power play. Interestingly, Washington for that game against St. Louis, like didn't have Ovi with any of the other best players. Like it was like Strome, Pacioretty, and Oshie together, and then Ovi with Tom Wilson and Nick Dowd. But again, they got shut out, so don't read into that. I think things will change. I assume you will concur. Let me know if not. Like if you had Oshie available in your couple division, would you grab him? I did actually before the hat trick, so I enjoyed that. But I still lost my matchup, so it's not even worth anything to me. But I'm hoping that he'll keep that magic going next week.
He might, but the magic is going to run out for Oshie. So just keep that in mind. So like I think if you already have him, like that's great. And you should like go ahead, like go get him and see if it continues. 5 goals on Oshie's 17 shots since returning, including that hat trick against St. Louis. So great grab if you already got him. And Oshie is a great category filler. So even if the goals peter out, which they will, uh, he'll still help you out a little bit while you hope for those goals. I still think he levels out to a 50-point pace. But Elon, what I wanted to ask you is where would you rank Oshie, like rest of season, against some of the other like sort of secondary Capitals scoring, including Max Pacioretty and Dylan Strome? Because like we're all excited about Oshie right now, but he's been a 50-point pace guy for the last little while. He's scoring on a third of his shots. It's fun to see a guy just come in and blow the doors off. But where would you have like if Pacioretty and Strome were out there, would you make that swap for Oshie? How would you rank
It's
them?
tricky. They're all on the same line. They're all on the top power play. I feel like they're very similar. I'm tempted to want Pacioretty, right? Like he's like had a, he had to ease in. His last 4 games, he's had 2, 5, 3, and 3 shots, which is like not peak Pacioretty shots, but it's starting to trend up. I'd be interested in the upside that Pacioretty brings. He was dropped in like a couple division, and I didn't grab him, and I kind of regret that because I think he'll be good. But I mean, I think it's very close between the three, to be honest. I don't think there's like an obvious front runner.
Yeah, I'll say the same. I think I say exactly the same. I think I'd go Strome first, and then I think like I know like it's like it's me trying to be like really hardcore me, right? By saying like oh she would actually be like hipster Brian would be like oh she would actually be my third choice of
That's
these
my voice
guys.
for hipster Brian. Ooh.
No, I think mine is still a little more flattering to myself than yours is. But yeah, I think I'd go like Pacioretty's shooting, like the shots are there, the time on ice is increasing. So I think I like Pacioretty's upside at least more than Oshie's. So I think I'd go Strome, Pacioretty, Oshie. But like if I was just making a choice for like the next 3 games, yeah, I'll go Oshie and see if it continues, then Strom, then Pacioretty. You're muted.
Okay, yeah. At the end of the day, you
Oh,
want guys on the top power. Sorry. Okay, yeah. At the end of the day, you want guys on the top power play. So probably they're all worth rostering, I think. And Ovi's doing a little bit better. He's getting assists. Ovi's like an assist guy now, by the way. But okay, let's go to Nashville next. I think we can make up some time here because everything in Nashville is the same. Nothing ever changes. Here's my thing I'll say about Nashville. I don't think we've talked that much about Roman Josi this season. He's crushing it lately. 9 points in his last 6 games. He's slowly approaching point per game. He's up to 40 points in 46 now. Same pace as last year. I was interested like going into this season. He's kind of like alternated, like one amazing season and then one like mess season. Like 2 seasons ago, he paced for 98 points. Right now, he's pacing for 71, 72, same as last year. I think he's going to beat it. Do you agree? Do you think he's going to be higher than 72 from last year or lower?
higher. Yeah, I'm taking the over for Roman Josi. I picked him in the second round, and I actually only started thinking about it because Makar was available in the cupfold. So this was like 18th overall ish, and then Makar I think was taken at 17th, and I was like, ah. I was like, well, why not Roman Josi? If I was getting excited about Makar, I should like Roman Josi, and it wasn't the plan I went into the draft with, but I took him. And Josi is probably like my best pick of the whole draft. I picked him. Yeah, he's been everything I could have asked and more. So far, 72-point pace, 18 power play points, 3.5 shots per game. And I actually think that Yossi should be doing better at 5-on-5, which is why I could even see like point per game Yossi. And like that's the upside. All right. I think somewhere between where he's at now and point per game, somewhere in the middle is probably the most likely. But I could see him getting up to point per game because he's only participating on 38% of the goals scored when he's on the ice at 5-on-5, when he's usually a little more involved. And while he's on the ice, the Preds are only shooting 7%, and they should be at least 1 or 2 percentage points more successful on their shots, which would help Yosi inch closer towards point per game. What a guy. So good. Next, would you, yeah, I guess, would you take Yosi or Makar first?
Makar.
Like, yeah, you would still take Kel Makar.
Yeah, but Yosi's great. But
Yeah.
Kel Makar's incredible. So's
I mean,
Josi, but
he's on a
Makar's
one.
more incredible.
Makar's on a 105-point pace, so
Yeah.
yeah, it's not. It's a kind of a silly question, I guess.
But yeah, and I'll just say quickly, like Nyquist continues to be great, but I don't want to bore people saying the same thing as I always say. So we'll move on to the Detroit Red Wings in the top half here. Who expected that? They're looking good, and a lot of it is, of course, due to Alex Lyon, who I guess we talk about every week. If he's still available for you, he shouldn't be. He's right now one of the top goalies to own in fantasy. He plays every single game. Right now, there's 8 minutes left in this game against Tampa Bay, and Detroit's winning 2-1. Line is up 24 of 25, not to jinx him. I mean, Tampa might win. Tampa's great, but just the fact that he's keeping Detroit in this game says a lot. Patrick Kane is hurt. That's a bummer. Obviously, if you picked him up, you were so proud of yourself. He went so strong. Hopefully, he'll be back at some point soon. I guess I can actually check the latest news on Patrick Kane here. I'm trying to be as fast as I can. But Patrick Kane, the latest is that day to day actually. So maybe he'll be back soon. Lalon's lower body injury. He'll be out for the remainder of the road trip, and we'll see how he's progressing when we return. Yeah, so that's not so bad. In the meantime, here's what I want to talk about actually on Detroit. Moritz Seider is cold. This is my classic. I just want to talk about if you should be holding on to this guy. No points in his last 6 games. This is a guy who already last season disappointed a bit compared to his great rookie season. This year it was starting to look, when at the start of the year, like, wow, anyone who grabbed him a little bit later really got a steal. He had like, what was it, 8 points in his first 8 games. It was going really well, even longer than that, actually. It was like a 12, 13 games where he's getting points almost every game. But yeah, like I said, like pointless in his last 6, but only 1 point in his last 13. Just an assist. Most of these games are 1 or 2 or 0 shots. He's getting some hits and blocks, but if you're not getting points, like maybe at this, he's not on the top power play. It's Gostisbehere. So yeah, maybe Seider is someone you have to consider letting go of, even in a deepish league like the Cupful.
It's a rough ride for anybody rostering Seider. 17 points in his first 24 games for Seider, and like that was the first quarter of the season basically. And we were actually like, I'm pretty sure I remember saying like, way to go if you got Seider, like you did it, like congrats, like you probably had to like you drafted him hoping for that upside, and he's reached it, and you did the right thing. So good for you. We did say he'd fall off a bit at the time, but like he has not fallen off a bit. He's fallen off a lot. Just 6 points, a goal and 5 assists in Seider's last 21 games, and also different from that first quarter for Seider. Seider was taking a couple shots a game in that first quarter. Second quarter, 1.5 shots per game. And like a half shot per game doesn't seem like a big deal, but it is when it's from 2 to 1.5. That's even less, right? Two is like barely enough. So now Sider is not even delivering that. He's also seeing a minority share of power play time for like 2 months now. So that's yeah, I don't know if that's gonna end at all anytime soon. Like you said, Elon, the blocks and hits are still there for Sider, but that's kind of it. And all told, Sider's pacing for 42 points, which is exactly the same as last year. And that seems right. Like if deployment doesn't change, Elon, like if you're gonna ask me like for Yosi, you asked me over under his current pace, and I said over. For Sider, even though it's just 42 points, I might go under.
I
Because Sider
mean, yeah, it's fair.
hit 12 power play points through the first half. It's likely not gonna have a chance to repeat that power play output in his current deployment.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to. I want to say something reassuring. Like he seems like he's a good player, based on past history. But for fantasy, I think it's the kind of thing. Maybe the classic advice. Like if you're winning, if you're in first in your league, like maybe it's worth holding on or trying to trade for him now, get him for peanuts, because like obviously he has the upside. But if you're struggling, you need to win right now. Like I don't see a huge reason, like you said, to expect like anything big. Like it's nice to have that peripherals floor, so you have that, but the shots the points obviously aren't coming, and the power play doesn't seem to be coming anytime soon. And Detroit's doing well. Like they're not going to change anything up anytime soon. Okay, so Brian, next on the list, yeah, you mentioned at the top, like kind of like I would have expected we'd be talking about Toronto near the end of this thing going into the year. But yeah, the Leafs are on a bit of a slide here. Took a bad loss to Vancouver yesterday, though. I mean, Vancouver's a really good team. But yeah, with that, the Leafs have changed up their lines. I was going to come into this episode and talk about Pontus Holmberg and his awesome hot streak on the top line. But I see that today they're trying something else against the Kraken. So Holmberg is back on, I guess, line 4 with Gregor and Kampf. It's back to a Knies with Matthews and Marner and Bertuzzi with Nylander and Tavares. So just, classic 2023, 2024 Toronto Maple Leafs lines. So far, that we're like, what, 10 minutes into the game, and Austin Matthews has scored a goal at even strength, like with those line mates. So there you go. So I guess I was forget about Pontus Holmberg. If he's not in the top 6, I don't care about his hot streak. He's obviously not even worth talking about. The guy that I do think is worth talking about though is John Tavares, right? Because he is on one of the coldest streaks I think I've ever seen him on, maybe ever since we started the podcast. Pointless in his last 7 now. We'll see if he can break that streak today. He's had some games with big shots. Is that enough for you to not be concerned, or are you seeing anything underlying to indicate that maybe Tavares is losing a step? What do you think?
No, I think that's it. Although, like also concerning, although, and I'm not going to put this on him, is he had 5 straight games where he was a minus. I don't think that happens often. And like he was a -2 for 4 consecutive games. But I really think that's just a goaltending thing. Like again, I don't put a lot of stock into plus minus, but sometimes if a guy is consistently one way or another, especially when they haven't been before, it's like, oh, like is something weird going on? Is something changed that's making him less effective? But the goaltending has just been trash in Toronto. So yeah, Elon, the shots are still coming. There's been like a couple like 1-0 shot games, which don't happen too often, and there's been 3 of them over the last 8 games. Oh, sorry, 4 of them actually. But he has 15 shots in his last 3 again. So I'm hoping he's okay. But during so let me slice it differently. There was a 5-game stretch where John Tavares had just 0 or 1 shots in 4 of those 5 games. I was concerned then, but now Tavares has taken 15 shots in his last 3. I'm less concerned now, and I think it's just a matter of time.
So in that case, I think it's a good time to reach out to the Tavares manager that might
Okay,
be freaking out, right?
Elon, Tage Thompson for John Tavares.
Yeah, I mean, well, I should get it more, right? Like I drafted Thompson higher,
I don't think you
and
should get more.
I think I should get more than just Tavares. Tavares is super cold. Like Thompson, I said is a little cold. He's not as cold as Tavares.
Yeah,
So
but
I think
Tavares. Oh yeah, and you're okay. Yeah, they're on the same pace.
I feel like
But
I would be
Tavares has
like,
clear room. Like his shooting percentage is like
okay, but
like
that's between you and
legit.
me.
Yeah.
That's not between me and the guy I'm trading with, the person I'm
Yeah.
trading with.
Yeah, like I see. Yeah. Okay. I'm
So yeah,
curious.
it's worth.
Maybe you could do Tavares plus a little.
The thing is, I like guys that are on the top line. Like as great as Tavares is, like Matthews is the top line, and Matthews just scored again today. Taylor is saying in the chat now 24 goals in his last 23 games. So Matthews is insane.
Crazy.
So I would hope that I don't know. I think Thompson has higher upside than Tavares rest of the season. So I'll take Thompson. I'll say that. Okay, but let's move on to now our next team in the. Oh, actually, let me mention one more thing on Toronto. Even though we can't afford it, is maybe the Martin Jones time is over. Bad game yesterday against Vancouver. We'll see how Samsonov does today. So far, he's had 3 shots against and stopped all 3. Brian, we talked before about your Blackwoods, your Mrazeks. If you have Martin Jones, you were enjoying that run. Maybe it's a time to get off that train and jump on someone maybe a little bit more steady, even though it's a much worse
Yeah.
team.
Yeah, no, this is what I was getting at when I brought those guys up at the top of the show, which is, it seems like you want the Toronto goalie over the Chicago and San Jose goalies. But I'm not so sure. Like Martin Jones has been Martin Jones again in his last 5. He's got a single win and an 857 save percentage. And then it's like, okay, well, let's just look at like then I guess they'll go to Ilya Samsonov, who in his last 5 games, he's winless with an 811 save percentage. But like only one of those was in January. Like, is that positive? That like so much of that happened like 3 or 4
I
weeks
think it's like
ago?
I think it's like very much game to game at this point. Like I think if like
Yeah,
Samsonov has a good game today, then like lock him in for 2
he'll
of the
go
3
again.
games next week.
But it's such a big if. Like, I really think, I don't know, it's pretty rare. I'm trying to think of the other tandems like offhand in the NHL. Tell me while I think this through. Is there a tandem out there where you expect less than a 50% chance from either guy that they're going to have a good game?
It's a good point. By the way, I should mention Toronto actually only plays 2 times next week. So it's more reason to maybe just dump Martin Jones and get a guy on one of these other teams that's going to for sure play more. Because, yeah, Samsonov could easily take the Wednesday game. And then next thing you know, you're waiting all the way till Saturday against Winnipeg to get your next Jones game. So I think now is the perfect time to get off, unless obviously there's like no one available. But if you have a Mrazek and a Blackwood and maybe some other options that we might get to, I think that answers itself. So, Brian, are we good to move on to the next team here? We've got 4 minutes left.
You
We have
bet.
one team left to hit our quota, but we still need 2 bonus teams. Let's see what we can do here. We're going to go to LA, who has a great schedule next week. And actually, we're going to continue the goaltending talk. David Riddick has been quite good. This is like a Martin Jones, right? It's like he's not supposed to be good. Generally, he's not good, but he's had 4 straight. Well, okay, so 4 games ago, he only had 3 shots against, right? So he got like Talbot got pulled. But then in 3 games he's played since, 2 goals against versus Carolina, 2 goals against versus Nashville, only 1 goal against in the win over the Rangers. We talked about before how LA was on this terrible losing streak. Their only wins recently have come in David Riddick games. They've already announced that Riddick's getting the Monday game next week. LA's got a good like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, sorry, the 4 off days. So we know Riddick's getting one of them. If he wins again, why wouldn't he just go Wednesday? So I feel like we're at a point where, first of all, especially since you could just stream him in and then reassess, I think go grab Riddick, get that Monday game. It's already locked in. And then Talbot, maybe it's just time to drop, which is sad because he's going to the All-Star game and he seemed like such a sure thing for a lot of the year. But like, why would you hold someone unless you just really have a strong belief that Talbot's going to like take back and be a volume starter? But that seems pretty far away at this point. Because I should mention also Talbot's been weak lately. I haven't given you his numbers, but I'll just say they haven't been great.
No, they haven't been great. And we went into Talbot's numbers on the last episode specifically, like that they weren't great. And I think the days of Talbot being a volume starter, I'm not sure they were ever supposed to start, but they did. And I think now they're over. And it's a reminder that sort of, well, of course, like in hindsight, it's easy to say, well, we were living on borrowed time, which like wasn't necessarily didn't have to be the case, but it's not shocking that Talbot didn't like Talbot was never good, right? He was good enough. But now he's not been good enough. And for what it's worth, it's not all Talbot. Like the Kings haven't been protecting him as well over the past month, but also still doing a pretty darn good job of protecting him, and he's not doing what we would reasonably expect of an NHL goalie. So I don't see why LA wouldn't keep rolling with Riddick. It's working out. It's not like Talbot is like a must play type. Of course, Riddick himself is a big if. And if I'm in a limited moves league trying to decide what to do, I'm probably just going to leave Riddick alone. I'll consider him for the next week for sure in a weekly league where I have 4 weekly moves, like in the Cupful, which is the Keeping Karlsson Ultimate Patron Fantasy League, by the way,
We have
kkupfl.com.
no time.
It's been a while since I did that. But if Talbot was on your roster because he was a guaranteed start, it's time to reevaluate if that
Hmm.
was his staying power. Like if he were dropped in the cupful, I don't think I'd rush to add him if until I see a bad Riddick start, and even then, I'm not sure that I would like really be rewarded for that. But Riddick plays Monday. It could be a bad start already, but even if it is, I don't think the pendulum swings automatic. Like Talbot might get the next start, but I've lost faith. I'm back. I'm back where I was at the start of the season with Talbot. Is that I don't think on any given night that he is a great bet to do well.
Yeah, it's tricky because like I have Talbot. I really need to win matchups. I'm now like going to be 7-8. If I want to make the playoffs here, I need to start getting a lot of wins. And so it's like, do I hold Talbot? Because maybe like yeah, like you said, like a Wednesday start isn't so bad, but I have to wait all the way till Wednesday or at least till after tomorrow to find out even if he's going to get Wednesday. So it's kind of it's just like risky. But okay, that it's tricky. I think I'd be okay to drop him. I might drop him, Brian. I might
I
get up
think
at
you.
3
I
a.m.
think
to
you
drop him.
can. If he's not a volume like in a cupful, if he's not a volume starter, forget it.
Yeah. All right. We've got 14 minutes, 40, sorry, seconds. Let's just go to Tampa really quickly. Okay. There's not much to say. It's always the same. Hagel's hot right now. You think Hagel can keep this up, even though he's not on the top power play? I feel like I asked you this last week.
Yeah, he'll be okay. I'd rather he was on the top power play, and I think that'll limit him somewhat from keeping up what Hagel's doing. I don't think you said, and I know it was maybe an interest of time, but Hagel has well he's pointed in what is it 7 of his last 10? Oh no, I should say 7 of his last 9 because this I think I'm looking at is the game against Detroit over?
It's like almost over, but it's not
Okay,
over yet. There's one
okay.
minute to go.
So let's say 7 of his last 10. But yeah, I'm not sure he can really keep that up. So yeah, like I think that's it.
Okay.
Tampa's that's Tampa.
It's the same, but Hagel's doing good. Like, it's pretty impressive that he's doing so
Yeah,
well
no,
without
he's
even a
good.
top power
Sorry.
play.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, Brian. So with that, let's end the first period of part two. We'll be back in just a sec. We knocked out a bonus team. Good job.
Yeah, but we went
Uh,
overtime to do it.
shh. Okay. Okay, we are back. Welcome everybody to the second period of part two of the Keeping Karlsson Mega Show. Brian's already started the timer as a punishment for us going a little bit over in the last one. So let's just dive right back in here. We just talked Tampa. Let's go to the Oilers, who are still like pretty low, right? Considering the run they've been on. They've won 10 in, no, they've won 13 in a row. I think they're going to keep climbing. This team is incredible right now. I think I'm going to pick them to win. They're my cup pick right now. I think I said on a previous show I made a bet for Winnipeg, but that was for the odds. If I was just had to make my pick right now, I really like the Oilers, and it's nice for them that they're getting some secondary scoring. It's not only like the main guys are incredible. Like, don't get me wrong. I think McDavid's got a point in every single game or multiple like 18 points during this hot streak. I think was the stat I saw. But nice to see guys like a Warren Fogle, for example, doing his part to help he's been playing obviously with Draisaitl, and it's working out really well. He's got 4 points in his last 4 games. Had a 2-goal game against Seattle. He had that crazy 2-goal, 3 assist game, which like on New Year's Eve against Anaheim. Is Fogel someone? He's like taking a decent number of shots too. There was a 5-shot game there, a couple 4-shot games. Is Fogel someone if he's in free agency? It's time to finally believe in a non McDavid, Draisaitl, Hyman, Kane, like type of person. Oh, RNH, one of not them. Is it time to believe in one of those other forwards?
Yeah, I think it's okay to. I mean, Drysdale, by the way, has been like going crazy, and I know there were some Drysdale managers who were getting like kind of antsy about exactly what he was giving them, which was good, but not as good as they'd hoped. But Drysdale's turned it on, and Fogel's been right there with him. Fogel has 14 points in 16 games, 5 goals, 9 assists. But the most impressive part is 51 shots over 14 games. Like Fogel's been doing this for a while, and all the 5-on-5. And I checked out the line and like the Fogel Draisaitl Kane line, or basically Fogel's on ice numbers for essentially the time that this has been going on. The like line has been outstanding. So I think I'm buying in here on Warren Fogel. I think we finally found an Edmonton third wheel that is working the way we would hope it would work.
There you go. And then obviously just to be a downer now, let's go to the other side. Darnell Nurse kind of putting up Moritz Seider level production lately. And so I have to ask a similar question. So Nurse is pointless in his last 4 games. Only 4 points in the last 10, but that's due to a 2 assist game back on New Year's Eve. That same game against Anaheim where Fogel went off. But yeah, Nurse also like the hits aren't like there that much as you'd want from like he was supposed to be a really sure thing for like a ton of hits. Decent number of blocks. The shots aren't that great. Most of of his last 6 games, he has more than one shot in only one of them. So how nervous would you be as someone who has Darnell Nurse? Maybe we can compare him to a Moritz Seider. Who would you rather have at this point?
Easily Cider. Like that's a I don't know who would rather have Nurse. Like Nurse is generally not an offensive player, right? Like I always say like 40 points would be good from Nurse. Right now he's like pacing for 10 less than that, basically. I don't know. And it actually looks like this is the right point pace for him this season. Maybe Nurse could be doing a little better, but you're looking at 30 to 35 points. And like Elon said, with diminishing peripheral contributions. So I don't know why. I'm not sure there are a whole lot of formats where Darnell Nurse is still valuable. I know there were a couple rosters that I had seen in our Discord server where people were asking, like, who's the drop or like what to do. And it's Darnell Nurse.
I mean, I will say he's averaging 4.06 couple points per game, which is like good. Like for even I think is like borderline for a forward. So for a defenseman, that's good.
That's,
But a lot of
yeah,
that is buoyed by like a couple just crazy games. Like he had a 13-point game, like a couple points, like a
exactly.
12-point game, a couple 8-point games, and then you're like a lot of ones and twos in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so who's next here as we're getting to the real creme de la creme of the NHL? And what have we done here so far? Oh, that was just the first team of this. Okay, we should go a little faster. All right, Carolina Hurricanes up next here, who are just like so, like their goaltend, it's very tricky. Like this game against Minnesota, Carolina let in only 17 shots. It's like, that's very impressive. Like they should get a win. A team generally should get a win if they could suppress shots like that. Unfortunately, Antti Ranta was in net and he continues to struggle. He let in 3 goals. And so that was a big L for the Hurricanes. They lost 5-2 today. Apparently, Kochakov is, practicing, coming back soon. So yeah, that's like clearly like Kochakov is going to get all the starts. They claim Spencer Martin. I wouldn't be surprised if they send Ronta down when they have the chance. We'll have to wait and see, or they could send Spencer Martin down. I don't know what their plan is, but I have no faith in Ronta. Like, I don't think I'd stream in Ronta for a game. Like I think there's a decent chance to have a very low or even negative points in like a couple just because there's so few shots against. So he has to be great, and I just don't have the faith in him anymore to be great. The other big news in Carolina, Svechnikov was hurt today. He's had a rough season health-wise. He's been so amazing when he's been healthy, especially recently. But yeah, today with Svechnikov injured, it was Sebastian Aho playing with Teravainen and Michael Bunting getting that top line spot. Of course, like I said, they did lose, but Bunting scored a goal. So I think we'll have to wait and see the lines. I'm into Bunting while he's playing with Aho. I'm into anyone playing with Aho. I even told you I'm into Teravainen, which you were like, okay, as long as you promise that you're only into him because of the deployment and not because you think he's good again. But okay, same with Bunting. I like him while he's with Aho. So definitely check game day tweets and check your free agency. And I would check him out if he's available.
Yeah, I think that's all there is to say about Carolina, really, is there's deployment updates that happen and the hoped for bump you can get from those players. So yeah, Bunting and Jarvis. Did you mention Jarvis's little hot streak?
I didn't, but yeah, Jarvis is on a little bit of a hot streak. Another
It's kind of
assist
a
today.
actually, you know what?
Hit
It's
me.
bigger than I realized.
Yeah, Jarvis is looking good, and he's playing on a line with Jordan Martinook and Jordan Stahl, which you
Huh.
wouldn't think would be. I saw someone called it like the hard J line or something, like Jarvis and then 2 Jordans. But yeah, 6 points in his last 5 games from a line that you wouldn't expect. He had 5 shots today and this assist. So yeah, Jarvis is looking really good.
Yeah, he's got 13 points in his last 15, 5 goals and 8 assists, 35 shots, so that's over 2 shots per game, which is nice to see from him. He's shooting 14%, 4 points on the power play. Um, hmm. I'll be honest. I hadn't really, like I sort of wrote off Jarvis early on and was sort of like really resistant to the idea that he was showing that he had taken a step forward when he had these little bursts of production. But this seems pretty consistent and a lot of like 3, 4, 5 shot games. If he's out there, I would yeah, take a peek if he's been forgotten. Because people have tried him and dropped him so many times. He seems like one of those guys who could just get like, camouflaged in free agency just for, from having disappointed so many people already.
I guess. I wonder if you were a little bit like alone in like I don't think he's like been dropped in as many leagues as you may think. Like he's
No,
having a pretty good
I
season.
doubt that Seth Jarvis is available in most leagues. Yes,
Yeah,
he's on a
he's good.
62 point pace, same as Cole Caulfield, Nazem Kadri, Tage Thompson. Similar,
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
now you disappoint me. Don't ask me if I would trade Thompson for Seth Jarvis. That's too
No, I will
sad.
not. No,
But by the way, Jarvis is only 21 years old, Brian. So definitely be prepared to like
I
open your mind for
know.
like the future because
I
he's I think a really going to
yeah.
be a strong player in the league.
This
Yeah.
is this is what I've said. This is what I've said.
Yeah.
I'm ready. I'm waiting. We'll see what he shows me and when he shows it to me.
Yeah. Okay, next up, let's go to Philly, who like it's crazy that we're talking about them here. No one would have expected this going into the year. Unfortunately, they did have a rough weekend. Two losses in a row, including today. They lost 5-3 to Ottawa. I was very close to dropping Carter Hart, Brian, like similar to Talbot, right? He was supposed to be my volume guy. He had such a great start to the year. Wish I traded him when I had the chance. But recently, Airson has been better. And, I figured maybe best case for me, Hart is like 50-50, and that's probably not worth rostering in a league like the Cupful. That said, Harrison at least got blown up today, which is like he's had such a great year, like whatever. So he led in 4 goals on 33 shots. It's not like that terrible. It was against a Sens team that's very strong offensively. I'm definitely not saying I don't believe in Harrison, but for me at least, it means Hart is going to get the Tuesday game. So I'll hold him for that. But he's like very close to drop. Like, I mean, Hart's had a good year. This isn't even so bad. Like he had a bad game on Saturday, but before that, he's been great. It's just like I'd hold him over Talbot, just even though I think they both might play similar games rest of season. But I think Hart like has a better chance to win, like based on like where we're talking about him on this episode and how good he's been. But still
Yeah.
disappointing that Harrison stepped up. Good for
Yeah.
Harrison though.
I mean, it feels like this is a tandem situation in Philly, which we didn't expect to see with Carter Hart, right? Like the thing with Carter Hart was you can draft him and it might be ugly, but he's gonna play a lot. And actually, like neither of those two things we thought were true about Hart have come true this season, right? Because he's played. The team in front of him has been good, but at the same time, Harrison has kind of like come out of nowhere to be a legit NHL goalie. Harrison's quality start percentage this year almost 75%. He started 19 games, 14 have been quality, and only two really bad starts in those other five. So yeah, this is where you're at. And if you had, I agree with what you said about Talbot, right? Like if you had Hart for volume, it's time to reassess. But I would expect Hart to do better the rest of the season than Talbot. So that would be a reason to perhaps keep Hart, even though I'm dropping Talbot and not be talking out about both sides of my mouth.
Yeah, makes sense. Also, in the chat here, Taylor saying he's a Farah believer. Joel Farabee, holy cow, 1 goal and 2 assists today, 7 shots in the loss, but still, that's a great game. He's playing with Atkinson and Frost. Frost has also been good. Atkinson has also been good. Look at this line. You got to add all of
I
them,
waited
I think,
all
right now.
season for Cam Atkinson to be good.
You just needed him to be with Farabee.
Yeah,
That's
and
all
honestly,
it took.
everyone in Philly, like Philly is like I'm trying to like the opposite of Arizona, right? Like where we were trying to like find value. It's like with Philly, maybe they're kind of like Ottawa that way. Like anyone in the top nine could legit have a good night, but like over the course of 3 games, like Cam Atkinson had 6, 0, and 9 shots on goal. It's amazing. He had 4 points in those, and he's followed that up with 4 more points since in his last 2 games. So just a huge, huge run of production from Atkinson. He's got eight
Let's
points
not
in
talk
his
about
last
Atkinson. Talk about Farabee.
He's got 8 points in his last 5 games. He had 18 points in 41 games before that. Farabee, everyone else is good. Like
Yeah.
I'm becoming a fair believer too.
He's great. If he's available, go grab him. Also, if you thought that Jamie Drysdale was like a sure thing to be on the top power play, then you don't know John Tortorella. Today, they ran 2 defensemen on the top power play with Konechny, Farabee, and Couturier, and they were Cam York and Igor Zamula. So, sorry. If you have Drysdale, like I don't think this trade was good for him. Like it's good for Philly, but I don't think it's good for Drysdale because he's not guaranteed top power play because that's just Philly. By the way, Igor Zamula, holy cow, 2 goals and 1 assist today. It's great. He's good.
I think we could do a whole episode of just naming flyers and going, holy, like, oh, wow.
Wow.
Did you see
Oh.
what they're doing lately? Actually, like on Frozen Tools, like they have little popular profiles in the box
Mhm.
at the top right. I'm just counting now. 5 of the top 6 are flyers.
Well, also like Owen Tippett had that insane goal, like goal of the year, but now he's
Yeah,
injured. So that's a bummer.
bummer.
Like I wanted to come on and talk about how great Tippett is. Now Tippett is hurt. Hopefully not for long. I don't think we have a update yet on how long this injury is going to be, but hopefully because he's really breaking out. He's like a great player as well. So Philly is in a playoff spot, right? Like they can maybe do something. I'm not like gonna be like coming on the podcast when we're like previewing the playoffs and be like, oh, easy win for whoever goes against Philly. Like they're a tough team for sure. Okay,
Yeah, who do you? I'm sorry. I'm gonna delay us just by a moment because I want to see who Philly would be if the playoffs started today, and they shouldn't
mhm.
because like it's not equal games played or whatever. But Philly would play Carolina.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, I'd favor Carolina, but
Yeah,
Philly's good.
but the other teams they could play are the Rangers, which like I could see Philly like holding their own in
Hmm.
that, and they could play Washington. Yeah,
That's not going
yeah.
to happen.
New Jersey.
All right. So next up, Brian, on this list, we get into the okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're up to the eighth best team in the league, the New York Rangers, our fourth team in this section. And we have to do five. So I think we're doing okay here. 6 minutes to go for anyone keeping track. What do we talk about on the Rangers? They're another team. It's kind of like Tampa or like whatever. So okay, Panarin, Fox, Trocheck, Kreider, Zibanejad, they're all doing really well. Lafreniere's a little cold. He's someone that's, been better this year than he was before. I wonder, like, if he's someone that if you're in a deeper league, like a couple, maybe it's time to consider dropping him pointless in his last 4 games. Obviously, I love him playing with Panarin, but I don't think it's not a sure thing. His shots are also down a little bit. I'm not saying I don't think he's going to do stuff. I think like next week, for example, the Rangers play Tuesday and then not again till Friday, Saturday. So especially if you're full on Tuesday, like if you have to bench someone on Tuesday, that might be a time to just like drop Lafreniere and maybe try to get him back later. I don't know. What do you think? How confident are you? He's right now at 26 points in 46 games. It's a 46-point pace. He was up, closer to 55 pace before this recent cold stretch. How do you see him shaking out the rest of the season?
Yeah, I mean the deployment for Lafreniere is well is not a guarantee, right? As we've seen over the last couple seasons, but he still has it, so I'd say that's positive for Lafreniere. And what he was doing before did look sustainable, but now he's down to 46 point pace, and it's hard to like rationalize really holding a guy like someone who's a little more reliable, even on a cold stretch where Lafreniere has just 1 point in his last seven wouldn't be down that low. So I think that tells most of the story for Lafreniere. I would say you could probably safely drop him, but knowing like, looking at the our couple free agency, I would I wouldn't think that I would be so likely to find someone better than him the rest of the season, right? If I'm looking for a hold, but if it's a streamer spot, obviously you got to move on.
Okay, yeah. Let's go to the Florida Panthers now. And I guess the news here, Barkov is once again missing some time. It's apparently not too serious. He won't play Monday, might play Wednesday. In Barkov's absence, like if you can stream in like a Sam Bennett, maybe he's a hold at this point, but like he's been on the top power play. Also Anton Lundell, we should mention, has like this is like unfortunately for him, Barkov will come back, but Lundell has been good like in Barkov's absence. I don't know what it is. Maybe only like there could only be one, but he had a goal and an assist versus Minnesota. He had a point in the game before, like 5 shots, 4 shots, but it's only been a couple games. So I wouldn't jump on Lundell. I think it's like you look at that streak, and I think it's just very much just like that's with Barkov out. So that's the way I see it. The other thing I want to throw at you, Brian, is after doing nothing all season, we finally get to talk about Aaron Ekblad in a positive way. What a game versus Minnesota, in which like still Florida lost 6-4, but Ekblad was in on all four of the goals, 1 goal and 3 assists, only 2 shots, like no hits, one block, but it's just those 3 assists were pretty great. Is this a sign that Ekblad is going to turn it around, or just a complete mirage?
If we're gonna do like this format every week, I think we need to put a moratorium on Ekblad and Montour. I don't think we
Okay.
can talk about them until they change it. Like,
Well, he
like
got it. It did
I
change. He had
know
a huge
there was a big
game.
game. Yeah, he had one big game after being pointless for five. Yeah, that's great. Like
Okay,
I
so
don't know.
you need more. You need
Honestly,
to see
Elon,
more.
I give up. I give up on Ekblad and Montour, and that doesn't mean like I dropping them. I give up on projecting them. Like
Fair.
I still feel like they should both be doing better. They're not, and I don't understand why. And anybody like I would love some answers from anyone. Um, I
Ekblad
think
plays,
that's where it's
yeah.
at.
Florida plays 4 times next week. Ekblad was dropped in my division, and I knew I was going to lose my matchup, so I was making some ads for next week. I grabbed him, so I've got him
Good
now.
for you. I have
We'll
a
see.
question. Who
See.
do you have more faith
Oh,
in getting their season back on track and meeting expectations between
okay.
Ekblad, Montour, and Timo Meyer?
I guess Montour, since he's the only one of the three that are like locked in on a top power play,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
I don't know.
I think so too.
I mean, Meyer's looking good in his last 3 games, but again, I'm just like concerned because it's with the Hughes out. But also, who knows? Hughes is like having a trouble with injuries this year. Maybe he'll be out longer than we think, which is not great for him and for New Jersey. But so maybe give me Meyer. Actually, if Trev is going to write this down and give me a 30-day update, I have most faith in Meyer doing stuff
But that's
than the other two.
predicated on Jack Hughes remaining injured.
But who knows? Also, it's like forwards versus defensemen. It's easier. I don't know. I changed my answer to Meyer for
Okay.
what it's worth. But I don't know. Okay, let's go to our next team here. We're rolling. Let's go to Vegas, who, yeah, they just won the cup, coming back. Not too much rust on them. They're right here in the top six, is it? Yeah, sixth best team in the league right now. The news here, of course, is that Eichel had surgery, so that will be the test to see if they can keep up their good stretch. They've won 3 in a row, so far so good. Right now, their top center seems to be Chandler Stevenson, who is a guy that we've yo-yoed on so much recently. Like Stevenson was a guy who, like last year, for a lot of it was like Stevenson's amazing, like grab him. People don't believe enough in Stevenson. Then this year he became a total dud. And then lately he's been playing with Mark Stone. Now he's also on the top power play with Eichel out, and he's got 5 points in his last 4 games, 5 shots against Pittsburgh in the last game. And also Vegas plays Monday, Tuesday to start next week. So I was planning on grabbing him tomorrow. I was thinking I'd wake up at 3 a.m. and grab Chandler Stevenson, but unfortunately, someone in my league, took him at a more reasonable time, and now I won't be able to. I was out of moves. But I think you should definitely grab him. If you listen to this and he's still out there and you've got space on Tuesday, I don't see why not grab Chandler Stevenson and see how long this can last.
Yeah, when he's playing well, like Chandler Stevenson has had his most success with Mark Stone, and he has played with Mark Stone and not had success this year also. But yeah, if he's been forgotten, I mean, I love that Stevenson took 5 shots in the last game, which is like extremely rare. Like I wouldn't expect that to repeat. And Stevenson's someone who does need to be regularly pointing to be worth it, but he's done that for 4 games in a row now and has a great schedule coming up.
Yeah, I'll also mention quickly a Marsh so goals in 3 straight. I don't know. Maybe he likes having Eichel out and being the main goal scorer. Obviously, Mark Stone has been great. Logan Thompson, super hot right now. We'll see. If you have Thompson in fantasy, you're hoping that Aiden Hill takes his time. But with that, Brian, we have 5 teams to go. We'll take our final break, and then we're going to knock out 5 teams and once again have a successful every team episode. So thanks everyone for listening. We'll be back in a sec to finish this off with the top 5 teams in the league. All right, we are back. Thanks again for joining us. We've talked about Vegas. Now we're in the top 5. Should we change the order, Brian, and go top to bottom, like the best? Why would we do that?
I
That's a
don't know
stupid
why we
idea.
would do that. That's what I was going to
Okay,
ask you.
just to be crazy. Okay, let's go to the 5th best team then. Let's go to the Dallas Stars. What do I have here about Dallas? Well, the big thing in Dallas is, of course, the new line combinations. They talked about it on short shifts, and at least in this last game versus the Islanders, yeah, they had Hintz, Robertson, and Wyatt Johnston bumping Joe Pavelski, and Pavelski was down on the third line with Jamie Benn and Sam Steele. So Johnston is, I think, enjoying his time on that top line. Okay, so Dallas has actually played today against the Islanders. Is that game over? What's going on here? Let me get the most up-to-date information for people. It's 2-2 right now. So far, the goals for Dallas have been Robertson from Pavelski. In fact, Robertson from Pavelski. Oh my God. Okay, well then who the F knows what's going on? But anyways, Johnston was doing really well. I was gonna ask you if he's a must add, if he's like gonna stick on that top line. He still seems to have the most, like looking at frozen tools, he seems to have played the most time with Robertson and Hintz today. And yeah, like Johnston before today had a goal and assist versus New Jersey, and he also had a goal and assist a couple games back versus LA. I'm interested for as long as it's on that top line, of course. That could change at any time.
Yeah, and we said that last week, and it was worthwhile, even though Johnson Point has pointed every other game since then. They've been multi-point outings. So again, that deployment absolutely alone, even though he's not on the top power play, is still worth going out and getting him if he's out there, because that's great exposure.
Yeah, and by the way, Joe Pavelski, he would think, oh no, this is bad. He's been bumped to the third line. He's got 7 points his last 7 games. I see he has 2 assists today in this game. Maybe you could think of it as like a chance to get a really huge return for him before he starts, being a third liner. He's still gonna be on that top power play. And again, like things could obviously change quickly. It's credible what Pavelski's doing. 39 years old. What a guy.
Yeah, I think that's the thing to remember is that things could change really quickly, but he's definitely like his minutes are down the last handful of games, like 14, 15 minutes a night, and that could be risk that you want to try and absolve yourself of like just in case, right? Just in case anything happens and on this run for whatever it might be worth. Pavelski has 3 goals on 9 shots to be this hot. So Elon, I kind of like what you're thinking. Like we've seen a change in deployment for Pavelski. He's still got the power play, which is really valuable to him, and I expect him to still cash in there. But the 5-on-5 numbers could go down, and that would knock Pavelski down, um, like you would noticeably. So it could be so Elon, if I'm trying to think, if you have Pavelski and you can trade for Tage Thompson, I would do that. That's not your
I think I would do that
situation.
too. I
Yeah,
would do that.
for
I would
sure.
reject that offer, but I think it is like it's easy to come on and be like when a player is like cold and be like you should trade him. It's hard to come on and be like a guy who's got 7 points in his last 7, but that's what makes us crazy. We're gonna say that you should trade Pavelski now, but obviously tweeted us. Don't. Sometimes people like hear us say that you should sell high, and then it's like they tell me the trade they made. I'm like, well, that wasn't that high. That wasn't that exciting of a trade. Like I want you to get someone really good for him. Otherwise, just hold on. He's still Joel Pavelski. Okay, next up, let's go to the Colorado Avalanche, fourth best team in the league, even without Landeskog, even without like Nichushkin now. Oh, that's the news actually just for now. Even without Lehkonen for a while. Now Nichushkin is in the player assistance program, so we have no update, no way to know how long he's going to be out. Let's assume a month to start, maybe 2 months. Um, but on the flip side, I think it's been a pretty official. I think like it was like some guy got sent back to the minors, and I saw a tweet from a beat writer. I retweeted on GameDayTweets.com that Lehkonen should be back Wednesday. Colorado only plays 2 times next week, Wednesday, Friday. So I'm really excited to see what the lines are going to be. Are they going to keep Drouin on the top line? I don't know if we're going to see power play. So obviously short shifts will cover this on Thursday after they get Lehkonen's first game. But yeah, I'm really excited to see what happens to him because I have him stashed in my couple team. I'm also not minding that like Colorado plays Wednesday, Friday, right? Because then I get to get 2 games from someone else. Then I'll take him out of IR then. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, that's the big news. Also, just like a couple random guys are on hot streaks, right? Miles Wood, like Logan O'Connor. Are you into any of these kind of like non-top power play guys that are just all of a sudden like scorching?
I tried to get into them. I did last week, and I wish it because yeah, they get like Logan O'Connor was one guy who has like I added Sam Girard. I'm like, oh, I can't also add Logan O'Connor. Like I don't see any reason why he would keep producing. And then he had one great game. Girard
He had a
also had
hat
one.
trick.
Yeah, Girard also had a fantastic game. So like I was a little relieved. It's I don't see a reason that this will continue from Logan O'Connor or Miles Wood to answer your question quite straightforwardly.
They're playing on a line together with Ross Colton, which I guess is like the second line, right? The thing is, Colorado is so not deep. Like, so I guess with Lehkonen back, it'll be interesting to see how things shake out. Maybe that will make Logan O'Connor or Miles Wood better if they're playing with Lehkonen. We'll really have to see how the lines shake out. And Ross Colton has been on the top power play with Nichushkin out. We assume Lehkonen will just bump him from that spot. But yeah, 3 assists in the last game versus Philly against Carter Hart, right? One of the, or not on the power play, even though he had 100% of the power play time. So there's upside there too. But again, lots of things are in flux right now. I wouldn't be rushing to add these guys, especially with only 2 games next week. Oh, Brian, also I added Josh Manson in my cap dynasty. I was really like, wait, he was the
Good
clear
job.
top free agent like for a long time, but he's still locked in for 4.5 million for this year and 2 more years. I didn't want to just like, oh, is this going to be the kind of thing where I add him because he's doing well and then he'll fall off? But anyways, my first return, I got him on like Saturday, and he had a great game: 2 assists, 6 blocks, 2 hits. So I'm loving my early returns from Manson. I had to like make some moves. I gave a pick to get TDA out of my lineup. But I also gained a pick trading Joe Veleno. So I cleared a couple spots, cleared some cap, and welcome Josh Manson for the next 3 years. So I'll either hate him soon because he's like a plug on my team, or he's gonna help me win a championship.
You are
But
loving like dynasty management.
it's fun.
Yeah, you're doing great.
I got a cool spreadsheet with all my players and their salaries and like for the years, and I get to see like I don't know, it's like fun kind of like taking a look at everything. But okay, let's go next. I think I've been doing this like I say this too much. I'm like, but okay. Can I say something by the way? As a side note, we have 3 teams to go, 13 minutes. We're cruising. I made an update, Brian, to a gamedaytweets.com. Two
Okay.
updates. First of all, it's like mobile friendly now. If you ever went to it on your phone, you're like, I can't, this is too small. I can't see this. Now it's like all nicely set up, which is like what I should have done from the start. But I'm not like a front end developer. I don't know about these, like, but anyways, John Newhold is great. He's one of the patrons of Keeping Karlsson. He's done shows with us and like he gave me some really good advice. Also, guess what? Game day tweets, ad free. I turned off Google AdSense. What was the point? It's like making everyone look at all these annoying ads to make like $5 a day or $3 a day. So for now, ad free. Check it out. GameDayTweets.com. No ads. With that, Brian. Okay, let's go to the Winnipeg Jets. But thanks, Shams, by the way, for all the awesome retweets to help power that site. The Jets are awesome. They're 9-1 in their last 10 games. Their goaltending is incredible. They barely ever let in any goals. And obviously now they're getting even better because Kyle Connor is back. Of course, Shifley's injured, but I don't think that's long term. So at some point they're going to have Shifley and Kyle Connor. And then this team gets even more scary. Just taking a look, Connor has played 2 games, 6 shots in each of those games. So he hasn't lost a step, played 19 minutes and 21 minutes. So there's not much to say. Like Kyle Connor is great. We could take a look at like how that affected lines, but again, like Shifley's out, right? But in the last game, Connor played with Velarde and Lowry, and then Ehlers with Perfetti and Nemesnikov. I'll be curious to see like when Shifley's back, if they go back to that Shifley Connor Ehlers line that was looking good when everyone was healthy, or if like, they keep Velarde up there. Lots of options.
Yeah, there's a lot of way these lines. Well, I mean, it's almost like in Winnipeg, like there's one very likely way, and if it doesn't happen that way, then there's so many other permutations possible. But Velarde, like credit to him for continuing to produce, and also some big shock. Like he had a run where he had 13 shots in over 3 games, 4-5-4 in the shot log. So good for Velarde. Perfetti's also been producing pretty consistently, and Nick Ehlers stopped for a couple games, but then he got back on the score sheet with a goal against Ottawa. So it's I think it's pretty impressive how this Jets team has kept rolling, even with like Scheifele out and Connor's health like back and forth. So way to go. Again, like I'm that's a team like I'm really excited to see how the playoffs shake out for them because like it could go really
Mm-hmm.
well or it could like be just like a real bad flame out. Like right now trying to see who they would play. Man, sometimes I have to be honest. I like forget the divisions. Like I'm not. I get like Winnipeg. Like is I they're in Central. Sometimes but like I guess it could be like Nashville is their first
Yeah,
round
they play a
opponent.
wild
Which
card team. Yeah.
I think yeah they're in the wild. Yeah, they would play the wild card team right now. I think they do a pretty good job of it. Although they could also end up against Dallas or Colorado. Hmm.
I mean, if it's Colorado, that's obviously really tough because Colorado will have some reinforcements. Even Landeskog, we mentioned, I think last week, is like skating. Maybe he'll even be back. Okay, so we're up to the top 2 teams in the league, the Bruins and the Canucks, and we start with the Bruins, who have 65 points versus Vancouver's 66. Though Vancouver like has played one more game, so maybe the Bruins will be the best team after their next game because they don't lose. They're so good. And now Allmark is back. Swayman is super hot. So they're back to having their awesome goalie tandem. They just destroyed Montreal 9-4. Danton Heinen. How many people even remembered that he was in the league? But yeah, he's on the Bruins. He got a hat trick. Incredible. Charlie Coyle, DeBrusque, JVR, they all had multi-point games. Boston has a good schedule next week. Maybe these are all guys you take a look at to stream in for a Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. If you had to rank, forget. I mean, Danton Heinen is a nice story. I don't think anyone's streaming him unless they're like super deep. But I think Coyle, DeBrusque, JVR are all interesting. I'd rank them Coyle, DeBrusque, JVR. That's how I'd rank them. Curious to know what you think.
I think I put DeBrusque first, but
The reason I have Coyle higher is power play. He's on the top power play, and DeBrusque
yeah,
isn't. But DeBrusque is doing really well lately, for sure.
yeah, and like, do we know that Charlie Coyle is like really in? I mean, in the last game, like Coyle was playing like also on the top line with Marchand and Pasternak, and on the top lines, like those, like that's basically the absolutely best place to be. I guess Coyle's been on the top power play for like 4 games now, so that's enough. Okay, All right.
He has
Yeah.
6 points in his last 4 games, Charlie Coyle. He's crushing it. Oh, you got muted all of a sudden, Brian. I don't hear you. Does anyone hear Brian? Is it me or is it him? I just see him, but I don't hear him. What do I do? Is it my headphones turned off? Can someone in the chat confirm if you could hear Brian? I don't hear anything. I still can't hear. So what you're saying is I can't hear what you're saying. So it's not helpful. But at some point, someone there's the lag. Unfortunately, I cannot hear Brian. Okay, there we go. No one could hear Brian. Did you make a change to your Zoom input? Is your Audacity? Oh, we were so close to being done too.
Oh.
Whoa, there you are. What happened? Hello? I heard a whoa.
Hey, can you hear me?
Hi. Yeah.
Okay. So you'll definitely have to like on the edit. Like I thought you no one could hear you, but it was me.
Oh, that's fine. But like your
I couldn't
recording
hear.
is still going well?
Yeah, but like you'll have me on my recording be like, "Oh, where are you? I don't know where you are. Like
Yeah, that's okay.
you're talking. I can't hear you.
That'll be fun. That'll be fun.
Why are you still talking?"
All right. So I think the last thing I said was like, oh yeah, I was like, Coyle also has 6 points in his last 4 games. I think you were about to respond to that of being like, yeah, I guess, yeah, he's pretty good. I think that's basically the last thing I heard was I had said Coyle's got 6 points in his last 4 games. You could just respond to that. Oh, and
Oh,
also you could respond to Shams's question here
I
about
feel
where do you also rank Zaka?
okay. I feel like so did you hear me say that like I liked Coyle and that he's playing with Marshawn
You
and
were kind of like
Pasternak?
starting to say that, and then I was like interrupted you, and I was like, yeah, and also he has 6 points in his last 4 games. I was like just giving more reasons why we should
Okay.
like him, and that's
Yeah.
when I stopped hearing you.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, lots of reasons to like Charlie Coyle. You know, if that person didn't like make me apologize for him earlier, I'd be like more open. Like I feel like this like weird adversarial relationship with Charlie Coyle or the person who wanted me to say sorry. But there's nothing. Yeah, no, Charlie Coyle is the easy choice here. He really is. Top line, top power play, like a stack top line too. Like he's not just playing with one of Pasternak or Marchand, he's playing with them both. And there's, yeah, I don't see any's hot. So go with Coyle. And then I think DeBrusque and Van Riemsdyk are interchanged. Like I'll go DeBrusque, just because he's been like a little better this season, or a little less nowhere, a little less time doing absolutely nothing than Van Riemsdyk.
Yeah.
So I'll go with DeBrusque, but that's saying something because they've both done a whole lot of nothing.
Yeah, and Shams is reminding us that Pavel Zaka also exists. He's been on the line with JVR and Nebraska. Points in the last two, but also put him fourth in that list. Personally, he's off the top power play.
Yeah.
Okay, next up, the Vancouver Canucks, our top team in terms of points as of Sunday, January 21st. They're great. Not much has changed. So, okay, I'll give you one fun thing to chew on. All of a sudden, Brock Besser is on a cold streak. He's still been getting his deployment, like playing with Miller and Pettersson, like the most stacked top line. He's on the top power play, but just out of nowhere, yeah, no points in his last 4 games. I assume it's nothing, but any concern? He was like scorching before, but yeah, pointless in 4.
Yeah, I think there were a couple of goals that he scored that were called back. And
Oh, there you
so
go.
and they were called back on like, JT Miller like stepping offside when he didn't have to or need to or whatever. So like Brock Besser has been scoring. It just hasn't shown up on the score sheet. Only 3 shots though registered over the last 2 games. So like if I didn't know that, I would be a little worried. But yeah,
But
I
he
think
did take those shots. They just didn't count,
they just didn't
I guess.
count because the play was offside and nor did the goals, but still a lot of power play time. Do you know Besser? Um, he has 13 power play points in 46 games, which is amazing. But what's even more amazing is he has just 2 power play points in his last 23 games. Like he's just
Wow.
like crushing it at 5-on-5 and had a fantastic start on the power play this year. But there's room for more from Besser.
Yeah. I mean, he could slow down at 5-on-5, but I mean, maybe he won't if he's playing with Miller and Pedersen. So yeah, that's all we got. I mean, also Phil Hronik is kind of cold, and he's not on the top power play. Maybe that's actually a real one to like. We already talked about him before and said like he's probably not the 55, 60 point player, whatever that he was pacing at. Now he's down to a 64-point pace, but he's pointless in four. Before that, he had actually a really nice run of like three straight multi-point games. So I don't know. He's probably like you still hold him, but he really gives you nothing when he doesn't get a point. He doesn't get too many peripherals. He doesn't shoot that much. So
Yeah,
it would be he's a
he's
tough
just
hold,
one
but
of
I think
those
you hold.
guys. Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think that's exactly it. Tough hold for all the reasons you just said. Like you're just hoping that he has that one good game a week that sort of averages out the rest of the nothing that he does, and it's frustrating to wait for, and that's what makes it tough.
All right, Brian, we did it all. 32 teams. I don't know. I had this big pause. Edit point. All right, Brian, we did it. All 32 teams. We even had 4 minutes to spare on the timer, though it is 10:12. We're supposed to be done at 10. But I'm going to call it a W for our second week in a row here. Thanks so much, everyone, for listening. Hope you enjoyed this mega episode of Keeping Karlsson. If you're finished listening to this and you're like, oh, I just wish I could hear them talk more. Like Brian said at the top, we got a patron cast. We're going to be recording tomorrow night on Monday night just for the patrons. You could join us live. You could ask, if you're a patron Keeping Karlsson, you throw us a question, we have to answer it. That's our contract with the patrons. So we always have a lot of fun going through all the patron questions. Not too late to throw your questions in. And not too late, of course, to sign up to become a patron. Even if you listen to this after Monday, you can sign up to become a patron and go and listen to that show because it'll be available to all the patrons forever. It's hosted on Patreon. As long as Patreon stays in business, you should have access to that episode. So yeah, check that out. KeepingKarlsson.com/patron. I'm excited for that, Brian, but I'm also excited to say goodbye to you for tonight and go to bed. So let's cue
Rude.
the outro music.
Oh, okay.
Why don't you go ahead and read us the credits?
All right. This episode of the Keeping Karlsson Fantasy Hockey Podcast was presented by Dauber Hockey and powered by our patrons, including our super supporters who pay a little extra to have their names read in the credits. And you can do that too by heading to keepingkarlsson.com/patron. Ryan, Lucas, and thank you. Like, it's not just like pay a little more to get their names in the credits, but like legit help us keep this thing going. So thanks. Ryan, Lucas, Top Cheese, Roman, Dunn, Michael, Jordan, Patrick, Aaron, Philip, Ivan, Sammy. Oh, Ivan, I'm against Ivan in the couple this upcoming week.
Are
I
you
hope
going to
I
put Lindsay
win.
because he's a super supporter?
I don't know. I hadn't considered it.
Maybe
Um,
you should.
Actually, there's been a couple guys that I've looked up myself, like over the course of this episode, like, oh, is he available? Is he available? And Ivan has them
Oh
like
no.
them all. So we'll see. Ivan's been planning for this, I think. Sammy, Andrea, Zach, Tom, Ryan, David, Max, Dusty, Ricard, and Patty. Thank you all very much for your patronage. Thank you to all our patrons also. When I already said it'd be powering our episodes. Thank you, Kevin A. Bear, our couple coordinator and Lord of the Bots on our Discord server. Shams and Elon keeping all the great stuff on the ever improving and evolving gamedaytweets.com. That SEO is just rising every single day. So get in on the ground floor while you can. Our short shifts crew, Lewis, Shams, and Jeremy and Derek, thank you all for putting on some great episodes. If you're on Twitter at shortshiftkk, logo art by brandonweeb.com, outro music by Pat Roach. This episode was researched with help from Dauber Hockey, Frozen Tools, Dauber Prospects, Natural Statric, Evolving Hockey, Cap Friendly, The Athletic, HockeyGoalies.org, Hockey Reference, Hockey Viz, Hockey Database, Elite Prospects, and Yahoo.
All right, great job as always, Brian. By the way, this Leafs game, I was hoping that we can check in and kind of see how Samsonov's doing to give us a sense of what'll happen next. We're like halfway through the game, and Samsonov has like got a shutout going, but only 6 shots against. Like Seattle, please test this guy so that we can see if he's good or not. But anyways, the people listening will already know the result here. Brian, this is a blast. What should we all do while we wait the long 24 hours, or I guess 22 hours, until we start recording our Patreon cast tomorrow?
Oh, until then, please keep doing all you can to make sure that fantasy hockey is for everyone.
Awesome. What a show. Brian, what a pro. Look at this guy. We're so lucky to have Brian in our
You just
lives.
you're just trying to make up for having said that you're excited to say goodbye.
I mean, that's not like I don't think that rude. It's like
No,
sometimes I just
no,
want to
it's
go to
not. It's
sleep.
just a little more effusive than usual. I appreciate it. I'm suspicious.
I
Isn't that
know. I
sad?
have like a bad vibe that I give off, and now I can't even compliment my friends without them thinking like I'm going to ask it for a favor. I
Are you
was
re
thinking of spending podcast money on something that I was going to ask you about at some point, so maybe that is buttering you up. But
Yeah, maybe I think they see there was something.
I want to get like one of those cool, like, what's it called? Like a thing to hold my microphone.
Me
So I can
too.
hang up. Like, so I want it like upside down, like
Yeah.
right here.
Do
Let's
you
both
want it
get
because it's
those.
cool or because it's comfortable?
It'll be comfortable. I won't have I have this thing blocking me here. And so it's like,
Yeah.
I have to like go around my microphone to type on my computer. It's annoying.
I agree. I have to like lean in like this and like my back hurts.
Yeah. Imagine you could be like this and just be like, I don't know. It seems
Yeah.
cool and also
Um,
useful.
are you ready, by the way,
A
for
mount.
my fast internet?
Oh, I'm excited. Okay. So tell me when you
What?
start sending messaging me to
I
tell me when you're set.
started 2 minutes,
It's a
1 to 2
wow.
minutes.
By the
It's
time I
usually
get
like
downstairs, it's going to be
18.
done.
That's
Internet could
crazy.
be good. You're going to enjoy your life. I wonder if you'll get other benefits aside from this fast upload.
Haven't really noticed any.
I feel like the internet, you use it for everything, right? I think something will come up at some point.
Yeah, but the returns are like not huge.
Shams, let's keep this conversation going offline because I got to go, but I'm interested to know why. Okay, I'll need this advice about the desk and how that affects which mount I should get. But okay, thanks everyone.
Thanks, chat, for being here,
Bye
for the tech
bye.
support too. Bye,
Yeah.
everybody.